他们与台湾专业两栖侦察营的整合，增加了台湾对抗敌军入侵的能力。这项活动遍布数个关键地点，包括金门、马祖喷湖与淡水河口。那么现在呢，也就是说不遮着掩着了，而是实打实的开始就是驻军了就是绿色贝雷帽美国陆军特种部队绿色贝雷帽的这个军事人员进驻马祖，进驻金门，进驻淡水河口进驻这个澎湖。那么我在想，就说绿色贝雷帽的特种部队不是应该很厉害吗？一个个都是神采奕奕而且呢非常的飞扬跋扈，到哪里去只要惹了事几乎都没什么事，当地的法规是判不了的。他们在韩国强暴，在日本强奸这样这么大的事情，顶多是调回美国本土而已而且在欧洲的那些美国驻军想干嘛就干嘛，无法无天的那么在台湾也是，台湾这么跪舔美国绿色贝雷帽过来驻扎，那么台湾当局也是欢迎的。如果说在这里他们打了台湾人，台湾当局也不敢对他们怎么样。所以说有这样的底气在，这3名绿色贝雷帽的这个士兵怎么会被台湾的这个小流氓给揍？我有点搞不懂。就是说你美国的这个特种部队的这个特种兵到底是不是特种兵？照道理你在这个地方打架，他出手是不计后果，就算把台湾人给打死了，美军也没有任何的责任可以去担的。那么这个派过来的人员到底有没有能力，还是过来混日子还是过来象征性的完成一些所谓的这个所谓的这个训练任务？所以说我很怀疑现在这些美军的这些人员他到底是不是技术人员吗？所以说通过这个事情，台湾现在也不演，就直接就是告诉中国大陆，告诉北京，现在美军军事驻扎在我台湾，你们自己看着办不要轻举妄动。轻举妄动的话，我这边有美军一起联合来干你如果在这里的美军报废了被死了，美国就以此为借口来介入有美军来这个担任指挥官，我觉得这个本身就是很扯淡的。你来训练这些草莓兵，这些草莓兵他能打仗吗？别逗我，别开我玩笑草莓兵是不能打仗的。所以说呢，现在这个两岸的情势到了今天这个地步，北京呢必须要武统台湾了别再磨叽了没啥好磨叽的现在呢这个如果你不武统周边这些国家一个个都老软的不得了。我说过，我们现在没有受到应有的尊重今天你看中国这个游客在泰国又发生了这个大巴车祸，30个人受伤发生这个车祸，泰国方面为什么表示？但如果这一车人是老外，是北欧人，是昂萨，我操，那马上赔偿到位，钞票马上提成到位。你中国人贡献了别人 GDP 的30%，但是你没有得到别人尊重。一个是中国人特别愤怒还有一些频道在那里讲什么这个中国人到东南亚去，中国游客就是垃圾说这个泰国很乱，马来西亚很穷说新加坡又太贵了，怎么样所以说你这个，然后呢还说中国人就不配出国，就是很多中国人自己都是他妈匪徒。所以说呢，我们要通过这样一场立威之战实打实的这个立威之战彻底的把对手给打服了。我们现在缺乏对外战争直接把对手给打服的这样的记录。朝鲜战争也只是打了3八线，没有彻底把美军给消灭打到直接把南朝鲜给他妈的收复，对吧？这个也是一个我觉得不够到位的一种胜利，对吧？然后呢，这个中印反击战打完以后，没有彻底的控制住这个藏南地区包括当然了我们不能够说这个那的找一堆理由，就是没控制住，对吧？这个 个越南战争也是的啊，帮助越南给打了，把美国人打跑，但是啊，这种胜利啊，也是以这个越南为巨大的这个牺牲作为代价，和中国也花费了很多人力、物力、财力作为代价打赢的。所以现在没有一场酣畅淋漓的一场速胜、大胜啊、决胜啊，而且以这个吃掉地盘为这个胜利果实这么样的战争。所以说呢，台海战争是必须要打的，必然要打的。那现在在这里正儿八经来这里驻军了，对吧？公开的表达了，像之前偷偷摸摸的，只是拍到了啊，大家就是弄这，现在是给你公开的给你来驻军了，这个是很赤裸的挑衅啊。当然了，北京这边也在准备啊，所以我说现在还是要这个不停的要加压，不停的要升高这个情势啊，该打仗就要打仗了啊，我们不能够在这个在这个地方停滞不前了啊。当然，最近这个局势从下金海域发展的情况来看，目前呢，台海的局势是高度紧张的啊，包括还有菲律宾也在这里给你弄来弄去啊。我觉得这个地方的仗是该要打是要打的啊，就是还是那句话，就是你胜利一圈开，免得百圈来，就这个道理，好吧？所以说这个美国国防发言人说，我们对于特定行动交流或训练没有评论，但强调在对抗中国当前的威胁时，美国对台湾的支持以及与台湾的防卫关系，我们对台湾的承诺坚如磐石。就是美国就是我估计，我感觉美国现在是越来越过分了啊，所以确实是要打一打啊。我们支持习主席，支持党中央，赶紧就打仗啊！无论你打得怎么样，只要你敢打仗，只要你敢打出去啊，对吧？你干到老死啊，都没有人会过来管你。你干到100岁啊，200岁啊，都无所谓的啊，赶紧打啊！现在本身对吧，失业率对吧也蛮高的啊，这个经济形势也不太好，对吧？大家都很压抑，赶紧找一个这个抒发口，不能在对内采取高压这个态势，这样子压是压不住的啊，就是把这个大家这个愤怒点、郁闷点啊，给宣泄出去。大家都是可以接受现在不发财，只要维持一个基本的1日3恩餐啊，日常的这个开销就可以了，最低需求保证。现在就是要大干特干啊，打一场爽战，这个才是他妈的最重要的。经济发不发展也就那么一回事儿啊！你现在的经济已经进入到一个瓶颈期了，必须要通过把台湾给拿下啊，然后再发展，这个才是正确的啊！你现在你看看，你还没有打台湾，美国已经对你的制裁是你本身该打台湾所承受的制裁，但现在他这边已经大规模的制裁啊，所以说我觉得我们不能够再跟他有任何的多个利落的这个层面啊，现在已经踩破中国的红线啊，所以说战争就在路上啊。然后我们再来看另外一件事情呢也蛮搞笑的啊，台军的所谓导弹阵地被谷歌意外曝光，岛内网友舆论炸锅。据台湾中时新闻网3月13日报道，Google 近期更新台湾西部卫星照片，意外露出台军位于台中大肚山的天空3型防空导弹阵地，扇形八爪阵地清晰可见。国民党籍立委徐巧芯12日在台立法机构称，台军多个基地资讯被看到，台军有及时反应吗？台防务部门负责人邱国正回应称，会与谷歌等单位沟通协调，把敏感处所遮盖掉。对此，有岛内网友称，都已经曝光了，协调啥？演戏吗？大家看到这个现场的照片呢，很明确啊，就阵地上刚好有7座战备中的天宫3型导弹车，旁边还有2到3辆导弹车停滞在发射区啊。那么还有这个北部什么龟山所谓的爱国者发射阵地在我看来，这个东西你让谷歌给你遮掉我觉得他们这个脑子他妈的很傻逼的。为什么傻逼？这种东西你没有谷歌给你暴露出来解放军的军事侦察卫星是他妈吃素的解放军的军事侦察卫星技术侦察手段是吃素的 解放军的战机飞过去，在那里看，这是吃素的啊！还用得着谷歌来上中国来通报他妈的这个军事情况？再说了，你台湾就屁大点的地方，你的导弹能藏到哪里去？那什么天宫阵地、爱国者阵地，啊，战时第一时间他妈高超音速导弹飞过来，啊，东风11飞过来，直接把你给报废掉。啊，俄罗斯现在在这个乌克兰报废了多少套爱国者阵地啊？啊，对吧？就你这种武器，还他妈必须说的还说这，我看你他妈就是故意的，啊，故意跟谷歌这样讲，然后泄露啊，给中国大陆看，你们来看啊，我们这有导弹啊。就像那个什么海风大队故意他妈都出来溜一圈，告诉台湾民众，看我们最牛逼的熊2、熊3都出来了啊！中国大陆你悠着一点啊，到时候有的军舰全部都给你打掉啊，对吧？他们意思就是说，中国的军舰被熊2、熊3全部都干掉，然后空中战机都被台军的战机都给打下来啊，然后现在又美军在这里做这个指挥官啊，在这个横金马。解放军敢轻举妄动吗？啊，有美军啊，这里有美军啊，你自己当心点啊！如果你们敢动的话，韩国、日本、菲律宾、美国、印度全部来参加战斗，到时候啊，把你打回17时代啊，你自己看着办啊！所以我在想啊，那有的说，那既然打回17时代的话，那我们这个东风41没事是要他妈的扔个10克、20克往美国扔啊，是不是啊？操！啊，好，这个继续想。
去3年，香港经济惊涛骇浪，连续经历政治风波、疫情风波。如今，香港下定决心组织一场国际金融领袖投资峰会，想要告诉世界
Hong Kong is open and we are back.
大家好，我是 BBC 中文的陈岩，今天。
Like, we used to be a country. We used to lie about those things. When we used to do those things, we would lie about it, only to declassify it 40 years later. Now, we're openly tweeting it as it's happening and failing. What the hell happened? Yes, bro, we're doing Johnny Harris. The deep state is real. Don't you worry about it, baby.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump.
Hey, Johnny. Hey, Archie. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around this story, I must admit.
Yeah. And this concept of deep state has been so, I think.
Why? Dude, he is so theatrical. Big Dog is so theatrical, man. I mean, I guess if it works, it works. You know what I mean? Like, his videos do bang. Like, they get a shit ton of views. Except I guess his last 2 videos didn't really do that well. But it's like a Vice style type of thing. Dude, I swear to God, he is like sober Vice. He is basically sober Vice. You can't Andy, my man Johnny? No. I think he's a very successful content creator. I thought that his content was like even more bang and even more popular than it actually is. But it's like he behaves like if everyone at Vice was like not allowed to drink caffeine, like sodas, caffeinated gold sodas.
Poisoned by politics and Trump sort of using it for everything that he doesn't like, and it kind of makes it hard to approach it earnestly. But I think we have to keep digging. I think there's something here.
Is the deep state real?
Is the deep state real?
Sometimes he does do good videos. Like his last 2 videos were alright too, about like international arms trafficking. It was alright, but it's just like everything that he's introducing, he acts like he's arriving at this like unspoken truth, when it's like pretty basic fundamental this Twitch streamer at the top of the hour to serve free to Amber, and it turns out he has a contract with Amazon, and that contract dictates that he served you 3 minutes, but at least it tells you that you can avoid those ads by subscribing for $5 or for free. And then the other guy on the Zoom call is like, yeah, really fucked up, man. I had to use one of my friend's Amazon Prime accounts to connect it to a Twitch account so that I could get one free Prime subscription a month, you know, and use it on him for the duration of this research. And he's like, wow. Well, I've also heard that, like, you know, if people are lucky enough, they can get gifted this up by, you know, 34 MKD50 or speed race, if they need the 34 MKD50, they can get 50. Nah, man, that's storytelling to inform the viewer that don't know the basic information in a compelling way. No, I get it. It's just like such. It's very corny, I think. The alt have dad. They can 5 gift.
There's this moment in the 60s.
He does act like he's David Attenborough stumbling upon a rib.
Where you really like see how this actually works, like where power really is. To the height of this moment where the US and the Soviet Union are in this like massive staring contest. There's nuclear weapons involved. Everyone thinks the entire globe could be wiped out in this conflict. And Cuba is centered right in the middle of it all. Right off the coast of the US, but they're on the Soviet side of the conflict. The US at this point wants nothing more than to snatch Cuba, to make it their own. And they've been trying to kill Fidel Castro a million different ways. They're looking for an excuse to invade. And to push back on all of this, the Soviets actually start shipping nuclear weapons to the island. The US has no idea until one day a spy plane is flying over the island and they snap this wild photo. I mean, it doesn't look like a wild photo, it just looks like a random field in Cuba. But you zoom in and you see canvas tents, trailers, missile launch equipment, and the US government immediately knows what they're looking at here. The world's most destructive weapons are actually hiding under these tents, ready to launch, sitting right in the United States' backyard, right off the coast. Nuclear war.
There is perhaps something to be said about how hilarious it is that Johnny Harris is doing a video about the deep state, a term that literally was coined in Turkish politics as a consequence of both like the initial inception of it, but then as a consequence of the NATO Gladio operation that took place in Turkey. Deep state, is literally the etymology of the word. That's where it comes from. It still exists in Turkey. We call it a parallel government, things of that nature. However, this term was originally coined in Turkey. Why is Turkey important? Not because Mexicans are Turks or everyone is Turkish, the world is Turkish, yada, 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 not a joke. Because the reason why the Cuban Missile Crisis happened is a direct consequence of literally the inception of the term Derin Devlet, deep state, NATO involvement in Turkey, NATO coming into Turkey, making Turkey a NATO ally, and building missile systems directly pointing at the USSR. Missile silos, missile sites being built in Cuba was a direct response. So, I'm sorry, but like, come on. Because I'm Turkish, it's a little bit, I guess it pricks me in the wrong way a little bit more than it normally should, but it does show like a severe lack of understanding on even the introduction. Like even in the introduction of the story itself, like at least bring up the fact that like why did the missiles make it there? If he had subscribed at the top of the hour, he would have literally not seen a 3-minute ad break, and he would have actually heard me say these things, and then he could be like, damn, this is song guy. Which is a callback, but this is song guy. I found out talked about deep sea.
103 miles away.
Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites.
I thought you used to say that the deep state doesn't exist because it implies the state is in conflict with itself, which is not. No, I'm not talking about it with Turkey. Yes, the deep state is oftentimes connected to like American involvement or a counter to American involvement in a state, in a puppet state or some shit. But we're talking about in the United States of America, then yeah, you have capitalists and then you have, I guess, some more capitalists. Because that could be the deep state.
Is now in preparation on that imprisoned island.
It's a crisis, a Cuban Missile Crisis. And Washington, D.C., suddenly has a really difficult decision to make. Everyone around him wants him to invade Cuba, but he's not sure. Okay, but here's the kicker of the whole thing. Instead of stay at work that night and figure out this crisis with his advisors, Kennedy gets in a car and travels across town to a cocktail party.
He came here to a house in Georgetown, the home of Joe Alsop, one of the nation's most influential newspaper columnists. It was the eve of nuclear war, and the President of the United States kept his dinner date in Georgetown. And the reason why is because at that party were the people he trusted, the people who really had power in Washington during that time. And most of them lived here, in this neighborhood, many of them side by side, all within a few blocks.
William Colby, the Far East chief of the CIA, who would later become the director of the agency. Chip
Dogs.
Olin, a former ambassador to the Soviet Union. Alan Dulles, who...
Yeah, back when dudes named Chip could be hired, you know what I mean? Back when they made it like that, our prime.
Boy, Alan Dulles, where to even start, was the CIA's longest-running director, who lived right here in Georgetown. Frank Wiesner, one of the founding officers of the CIA. He lived just 6 blocks away. Felix Frankfurter, a Supreme Court justice.
I mean, during the time of Dulles and the OSS CIA, yeah, there was a deep state, but not like that shit any longer. Yeah, I think there's more so sometimes a little bit of a divergence in attitude within the State Department. There's parties that want to nuke Iran immediately, and then there's parties that want to destabilize Iran and implement regime change, and of course no one that doesn't want to touch Iran. So that is the major, that's the major divergence in policy when it comes to the State Department. Does that make sense? Nowadays, at least. It's not it's not the way where it's the American president is directly at odds with something that the CIA wants to do, and we got to do something about it. I don't think it works that way. I mean, there's no divergence within there's no disagreement within the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as it pertains to coups, dude. You had, and I'll never forget this, Chris Murphy, that son of a bitch. Okay, Senate Foreign Affairs, is it Senate Intelligence? One or the other. Chris Murphy coming out and openly writing the words on Twitter. We tried to do a bit of a soft coup in Venezuela, and Donald Trump ruined it. That is how can you write that? We used to be a country. We used to lie about those things. When we used to do those things, we would lie about it, only to declassify it 40 years later. You know what I mean? Now, we're openly tweeting it as it's happening and failing. What the hell happened? Have some shame. Have some decency, Chris Murphy, you son of a bitch.
A couple minutes walk away, and Kennedy himself had a house in this.
Yeah, here it is. One of the many reasons why I shit on Connecticut. Then, it got real embarrassing. On April 2019, we tried to organize a kind of coup, but it became a debacle. Everyone had told us they'd rallied at Guaido, got cold feet, and the plan failed publicly and spectacularly, making America look foolish and weak. Did he edit that? It was a soft coup? I think it's a Berenstein Bears moment that I remember it as a soft coup as well. Bro, he tweeted it out. Okay? He tweeted it out. It's this is the type of shit back in the day that Cy Hirsch would uncover, and it would get written out on the Washington Post, and then the Republican Party normally would be we have to execute him for being a gay communist. A pinko, if you will. Nowadays, it's liberals and Democrats and Republicans hold hand in hand and sing Kumbaya as they're dropping bombs on countries and calling coups. We used to be a nation, is what I'm saying. Was that not a whistleblower moment? Wait, what? No, man, he's saying it's bad that Trump f***ed up the coup, big dog. He's saying he wanted to do a coup. He wanted to do a coup. And then Trump f***ed this coup up. Look. Read the words. The winning clique was right in front of us. Bring together all of Latin America behind a transition of a new free elections and take the time to work with or neutralize Maduro's patrons, Russia, Cuba, and to a lesser extent, China. But Trump couldn't talk to Cuba because of Obama. Putin had Trump wrapped around his finger. And all Trump wanted to talk to China about was the trade war. And we made no meaningful effort to move them. And all three stood solidly behind Maduro. Then Trump and his Latin American hawks got itchy. He recognized Guaido as the leader of the nation, thinking that would propel Venezuela's Maduro-friendly military leaders to Guaido's side. In fact, the opposite happened. By putting Elliot Abrams, a symbol of American imperialism in Latin America, in charge of Venezuela, and by largely acting alone, Trump helped Maduro rally the military in much of the country against America and cast Guaido as a U.S. pawn. Then it got real embarrassing. In April 2019, he tried to organize a kind of coup, but it became a debacle. Liberalism is genuinely just an actual crazy ideology. Like, at least reactionary conservatives are kind of consistent. Like, liberals basically shit on the very same values that they supposedly espouse. I don't know how this works. It's so weird.
The reason JFK kept his date in Georgetown that night was because this is where power in Washington was. On the other side of town from the Capitol building, the seat of American democracy, the decisions were being made here by unelected men who had an immense amount of secret power.
I agree with you, but it's really funny to call reactionaries consistent. Excuse me, they're consistently stupid. Hello? Reactionaries are consistent. They are consistently reactionary. They will never have a position that is progressive. Whereas liberals routinely espouse progressive values and then immediately drop them, shit on them, poo-poo caca them. That's simply what I'm stating. You'll never find a reactionary that's like, I actually love, dude, I actually love Medicare, big dog. I'm a fan. Let's get some more Medicare. Maybe Medicare for all, actually.
These were powerful men who were not...
Reactionaries are so consistent, they end up obstructing themselves. Thank you. What a great example. Like, conservatives are so obsessed with obstruction that they literally are obstructing their own policies, okay?
Not elected or accountable. And at this point, they had become drunk on the worst kind of power, the secret sort of power that corrupts, the kind of power that our founders sought to check and balance with all of their founding documents. But here in Georgetown, it had moved beyond anything the designers of the country could have predicted, into a shadowy, separate part of our government, a deep state that was actively blackmailing the Congress.
They don't want to build a border wall anymore because liberals agree with them. Exactly. They're like, no. They're like, oh, you want to build a wall? Okay, well now I want to build a pit. I want to build a pit to put the Venezuelans in. Okay? Your wall. We've moved on from the wall. We are now building a pit.
And working to undermine the President of the United States and being horrifyingly successful at it.
Unelected deep state operatives who divide the vote to push their own secret agendas.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, it's being really dumb to do this.
As far as I know, we don't engage in assassinations and kidnappings and things of that kind.
I do think there have to be serious questions raised about some of the foreign policy blunders that this country has had over the last 20, 25 years.
Ro Khanna might go just the most impossible to decipher politician in the United States of America. Just, you'll never know. He always keeps you guessing, okay? He's awesome. A true enigma, yes. A mystery wrapped inside of a riddle. You will never understand why Ro Khanna is doing something, anything, as a matter of fact. Sometimes it'll be like, actually, I think the Maoist third worlders have a good idea on, the unethical extraction of natural resources. And the next day he's like, we should allow tech companies to be able to execute people that are in their workforce. If you code for a tech company, Mark Zuckerberg can kill you after your wife in front of you. Here's the bill. I, Ro Khanna, signed the bill. And then the next day he will sign the I am an anti-communist bill.
There's some truth in the idea that there is an ongoing group of people who continue the work of government as the administrations come and go. Is it possible for these entities to go rogue? Absolutely.
Was the agency involved in the kind of domestic surveillance that has been portrayed in the news reports? My feeling is not.
Okay, I'm doing this? The deep state. Is the deep state real? And if so, what is it? Before we do that, I want to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsor. NordVPN is a longtime sponsor of our channel. We couldn't make this work if we didn't have sponsors like Nord. NordVPN is a tool that we use to surf.
Dude, you can tell when a former Mormon is getting swagged out when he starts experimenting with one singular pearl necklace. Okay? He's got the pearl choker on, his joke. He's getting spicy with it lately. His last couple of videos, you can tell. You can tell. This is like Johnny After Dark, okay? This is no longer Johnny Come Lately. This is Johnny After Dark.
The internet more securely. A VPN allows you to connect to the internet in more secure ways, or to route your connection to a different country, which has all kinds of benefits, like to watch media that's available in other countries, and even get discounts on certain things that are more expensive in the country you live in. But most people use NordVPN as a threat protection tool to block annoying ads, intrusive ads, or invasive trackers. The internet has become very sophisticated, and there's a lot of secret stuff happening when you are surfing the web. Nord helps make that more
For
secure.
how long have you been a CIA agent? This is Bird. 32 years ago, I joined the CIA.
Protection against
in a very special program.
Attacks, phishing, QR code scams, ransomware. It is an all-around protection tool that makes life on the internet much safer, in addition to having these other benefits. I use Nord a ton when I travel, and I use it when I'm accessing sort of more sensitive websites. Nord also has other useful tools like NordPass, which is a password manager. You can get this together with NordVPN if you choose the complete plan at checkout. So thank you, NordVPN. There's a link in my description at nordvpn.com/JohnnyParis. When you click the link, it helps support the channel, but it also puts you in a nice big discount. And
bro, come on, I'm not skipping the ads, man.
Free NordVPN.
I'm not skipping the ads. We're doing ethical reacts.
So thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring today's video.
Okay, if you can hear this.
Like this. Start by introducing yourself, who you are, and what you do, and what your relationship to this topic of the CIA.
Yeah, so my name's Jefferson Morley. I'm a journalist in Washington. I've been a journalist in Washington for the last 40 years.
In the old days, spy agencies were a war thing. When the U.S. was at war,
he's interviewing his old co-workers. Yeah. He's like, yeah, act like you don't know who I am. No, stop calling me John Boy. That's like an office thing. They don't know this.
Set up an international spy operation to best wage that war. And then when the war was over, they would pare down or totally get rid of the spy agency. The thinking here was that a spy agency took up a lot of resources and...
That's a cool ass sweater. Dude, he is swagged out now. He is a swagged out formie mormie, okay? Full blown.
Threatened civil liberties. A lot of power concentrated into a bunch of unelected people. Worth it during war, not worth it during peace. But then, the biggest war of them all came to America's Pacific doorstep, and it changed everything.
Roosevelt now has a license, more of a license to do what he wants, and one of the first things he does is consult with a man named Bill Donovan.
Wild Bill, a corporate Wall Street lawyer who was obsessed with the power of intelligence.
Donovan had very strong opinions, and he said, you need a wartime intelligence service. You're going to need it.
Wild Bill Donovan would be in charge of the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS.
This is another way that you know that, we're kind of washed now. We used to have shit like this, like Wild Bill Donovan. The last version of this was in the Iraq War. You got, dudes named Spider and shit being generals. Nowadays, we don't have that. This is what the conservatives mean when they say the CIA is now woke and gay, okay? Everyone's got, imposter syndrome at the CIA. They don't got them mad dogs no more, okay? We have Mad Dog Mattis. I mean, barely. This is what I'm saying. They're on the way out. It's over. Spider is a recent general, too. That's what I'm saying. The Iraq War and Afghanistan is, the last version of these guys. Now they're gone. Now everyone in CIA is bisexual.
Centralized intelligence agency that would be given immense power to do...
Bombs away, Lemmy.
你看，一群大货车在这睡觉，笑死。
The genocidal with a sick ass nickname.
Do whatever it took to keep our people safe and to keep our team on top. This was the birth of modern intelligence, a euphemism for spying and lying and cheating and deceiving and sneaking and breaking, coercing, dividing, and conquering. No idea was too crazy for the OSS during this time. Like, one OSS psychologist had this idea that Hitler could be demoralized if they just showed him a vast quantity of porn.
Paramilitary operation?
Strapping explosives to a bunch of bats and letting them loose over Tokyo.
Guys skiing into Nazi-occupied Norway.
Making fake companies, recruiting off Wall Street from all of his old colleagues, bringing in bankers and movie directors, fake radio stations, anything to demoralize, divide, or confuse the enemy.
The OSS is the first intelligence agency that the United States ever has.
Oh, and one of Wild Bill's favorite things to do was to have parties at his house.
Are we the first ones here?
The big night.
To plan and plot his operations with his friends in Georgetown, a neighborhood in Washington, D.C. that is strikingly beautiful. Here is Bill Donovan's house. It's now worth $17 million. It's beautiful, and this is where he would have a drink and chat with other Washington power brokers. He would recruit new agents.
It's a good thing we were like, okay, that was wartime. Post-World War II, they're like, let's just stop doing all of that. And certainly not do it domestically to our own people and also globally, because we have a global connection now within the OSS specifically. And that's where the story ends. So yeah, end of the video. Okay, nothing to look at further here. Okay, this is how it worked. The end.
From American high society, earning the agency the nickname Oh So Social. Pretty clever. Okay, but remember that spy agencies like this were a war thing only, and the war ended in 1945, and the OSS got dissolved.
The forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
What do we do with the OSS now that we're at peace? And Truman says, we don't want to risk having an American Gestapo.
A political police.
His meaning, especially in the context of having just defeated the Nazis, was, that's what led our enemy astray. They had a secret intelligence agency, the Gestapo, which wound up enforcing political norms and enforcing tyranny. And we don't want to risk that.
Here's Harry Truman doing the right thing and signing a piece of paper that says that the OSS can no longer exist. Truman was freaked out. He's like, this was really great to help us win the war, but this is way too much power in the hands of unelected officials holding secret information. But it was kind of too late. Putting the genie back in the bottle would prove to be an impossible task. Is it significant that all these guys live 4 blocks from each other in Georgetown?
Yeah, it's very significant because they're the product of this wartime culture.
This is one party that just has to turn out right.
Here is target number 1 for the Reds. Who's in the bullseye? You are.
So there was a brief moment after World War II when the Cold War didn't exist. We were at peace. But then, almost immediately, tension started to rise between these two great empires that had been allies to defeat the Nazis, but were now skeptical of each other. And senators were suddenly declaring that it was impossible to know where war begins and where it ends.
The Soviet Union and its agents have destroyed the independence and democratic character of a whole series of nations in Eastern and Central Europe.
And this is when all the intel people that had run the OSS, many of them who lived in Georgetown, by the way, start calling.
One of the funniest aspects of like the inception of the Cold War is like virtually every American general and politician openly being like, we actually killed the wrong enemies. The real enemy was much larger. They're called communists, and we have to kill them. We have to kill them dead all the time. We have to kill the communists in the country. Like, literally, just, it's not even like a, like, it wasn't like a, oh man, oh, these communist guys, the USSR, they're real scary. I think we gotta liberate Eastern Europe. Like, that wasn't the perspective at all. Not even a little bit.
For the resurrection of the OSS, a centralized intelligence agency that we can use to fight this new global war with the Soviet Union. But no.
Yeah, especially considering that like our capital owners already were very distasteful towards trade unionists and socialists and communists alike. It's not like there wasn't communism in this country before World War II. As a matter of fact, there was probably more communism in this country before World War II than there is now, if you think about it. And you know, the 60s put an end, the Cold War basically put an end to all of that. Red Scare, McCarthyism, all of that genuinely destroyed it. But don't forget that we did have a socialist who ran for president from jail, from prison. That's right. His name was Eugene V. Debs.
A bunch of other lawmakers. The Constitution wasn't designed for us to put so much power in the hands of men who are doing secret things. Doing this will result in a police state run by power-grabbing bureaucrats. Too much power to military leaders and their insatiable appetite for more money, for more men, and more power, whatever the cost to democracy.
Truman's mind changed. And what changed Truman's mind was the growing confrontation with the Soviet Union.
And soon the papers were signed and a new agency was formed. The Central
You see, he just had to do it to him.
Intelligence Agency, the CIA.
When Truman signs the National Security Act, he says we have to be careful that we don't have an American Gestapo. So that thought is still on his mind.
The CIA was the big shiny new weapon of the United States in the Cold War. And their mission was to, quote, gain and distribute intelligence and to perform, quote, other functions and duties related to intelligence affecting national security. What does that mean?
Everybody knew what that language meant. Everybody knew that was, and we just weren't going to talk about it because we didn't want to write it down on paper.
Like, what do they do with this vague mandate of national security?
Oh boy, they go to town.
You must stir the ingredients in your chocolate cake.
So plain, but so soft and smooth.
Operation Paperclip, 1945.
Bro, put a Frank Herbert quote in there. Respect for the truth comes close to being the basis for all morality. This is profound thinking if you understand how unstable the truth can be.
Operation Paperclip, 1945 to 1959. Americans wanted to get those Nazi rocket scientists on their side so that they could develop their own rocket capacity. James Angleton, for example, protects a general under Hitler.
CIA.
There ain't no way he's gonna talk about Gladio, Operation Gladio. There ain't no way. So Paperclip is like the known. The thing that Johnny Harris does is he will always cover stuff that like the American government opts to, but will rarely ever cover the other stuff that is in my opinion more nefarious and significantly more important because it establishes the basis in an identical fashion, mind you, to what they're doing with Paperclip. In an identical fashion to Paperclip, where you establish the basis of the NATO alliance.
Gets involved in the Italian
elections, 1948. His thumb on the Italian democracy and makes sure that U.S. allies win.
Operation Ajax, coup in Iran, 1953.
The CIA and the MI6 organized a coup to overthrow the democratically elected government.
Now that we encouraged the Shah to take that action, I will not deny.
CIA coup Guatemala, 1950. Bananas, of course, bananas.
Again, democratically elected government. Reformists wanted to engage in land reform, and the CIA overthrows it, really at the behest of the United Fruit Company.
CIA is now helping American corporations.
The influence of American corporations on the CIA actions is unmistakable. Alan Dulles was on the board of directors. Howard Hunt, Birch O'Neill, David Phillips, CIA coup in Congo, early 1960s. CIA coup in Chile, 1973.
Wait, hold on. Why is this ex-CIA guy saying there was a CIA coup in Chile in 1973? I thought I watched a Johnny Harris video that said that glanced over that. Interesting. Johnny doesn't think that that's a coup. Am I misremembering? Speaking of Chile, and also Salvador Allende, Pedro Pascal's sister, follows me on Instagram. I followed her back. Please, I would love to have you and your brother on the stream at some point. Please come on the broadcast, both of you guys. Just saying, randomly bringing that up. Never forget 9/11, 1973.
The assassination operation against General Schneider in 1970 is coordinated with Kissinger's office.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Mind control experiments, MK Ultra.
In 1950. massive program to develop.
Oh, he was introduced as a reporter, not ex-CIA. What are you getting at? You're right. We were making jokes about how this dude is CIA earlier, and it's stuck with me.
Means of controlling people's minds. Some 40 U.S. academic institutions were involved in this kind of
LSD to people without their permission.
Can we develop a truth serum, dosing somebody with LSD 60 times in a week? NSA's Operation Shamrock, electronic surveillance, 1945 to 1970. The first warrantless wiretap is with hundreds of CIA assassination plots.
Operation Phoenix.
Eventually, Bill Colby, who's later director, admitted that they had killed 20,000 people.
Operation Mockingbird,
COINTELPRO,
Operation Chaos, Watergate, Jim Critchfield, Frank Wiesner, James Angleton, Roosevelt, John Foster McCoy,
CIA coup in Indonesia, CIA coup, CIA's involvement in Guatemala and Civil War. It was a CIA crime spree for 20 years. There's no other way to describe it.
So by the 1970s, the CIA is this powerful, well-funded machine of intelligence that is doing a lot of secret things all around the world. They start blackmailing lawmakers to scare them away from investigating them and bringing them in.
These agencies had harmful personal information on lots of people. When I was doing my Angleton book, the guy told me one day when he went to meet Angleton quoted back to him what he had said to his wife in bed the night before. And so they had this capacity, and people knew that they had this capacity. You know, the Kennedys knew that J. Edgar Hoover had information about his affairs with various women. This kind of knowledge that they had, Angleton and Hoover were masters at using those kind of secrets as leverage. Kennedy had this thing hanging over his head.
Damn, dude. When they talk about it like this, it kind of makes me feel like Mary's the big bad. Hold on. Johnny, so, can you tell me why all of this is actually ultimately for good to prevail over evil, please? I assume that we're not the bad guys here, right? I mean, it's just like, just say that like we don't do that anymore or something.
And knew Hoover had that on him, and so he couldn't find it.
And so much of this power is concentrated among just a few people, many of them not elected, and many of them living right here along these streets in this neighborhood of Georgetown, living in fancy homes, having fancy cocktail parties, and kind of running the Western world. It's exactly the nightmare of the founders of the country and the nightmare of President Truman. 1 month after the assassination of President Kennedy, Harry Truman publishes an article in the Washington Post that says the CIA should be abolished. And he says it has cast a shadow on the historical reputation of the United States. The man who signed the piece of paper that created the CIA comes out and says he regrets it. Eventually Americans start to get savvy to the fact that their government is sort of going off the rails. As this war in Vietnam drags on, more and more Americans stand up and say enough, demanding accountability for...
I'm not gonna lie, so far this is the most like, maybe Johnny is not CIA video I've ever watched. That's the only take I have on it. He is destroying the CIA allegations right now. Has to keep his cover? No, man. I think something changed. I think Johnny got that dog in him, okay? He started wearing the singular choker. I think, I'm telling you, man. Maybe his contract ran out. I don't know. Yeah.
Or a national security apparatus that had gotten out of control. And what does the government do in response? They start spying on the protesters.
Operation Chaos was the CIA spying on the anti-war. Johnson calls in the accountants and says, what's going on? The communists have to be behind this. And so they started infiltrating the anti-war movement. And they come back in about a year and they say, well, Moscow and the North Vietnamese, they really like this anti-war movement, but it's not controlled by them. It's not.
By the way, this is literally a direct parallel to the pro-Palestinian movement in America right now. So make no mistake, whenever people say like, oh my God, like the pro-Palestinian people are getting their lines directly from Iran, like Jonathan Greenblatt said. Remember, no, No, not at all. No, these are Americans who came to that conclusion on their own because they have a genuine moral compass. Something that is devoid of everyone in Washington, D.C., of course. But, you know, it's like unimaginable for them. It's the same principle behind whenever motherfuckers on the internet are like, haha, dude, you must be a grifter for advocating for these things. After all, why would you advocate against things that are beneficial for you personally? Dumbass, there's got to be a different financial component associated with this. You know? Always the same. They're like, oh no, it must be a Marxist infiltration. It must be a communist plot. No one could arrive at the death and destruction is bad angle on their own.
Not funded by them. It's pretty much an American thing, you know. But that doesn't change anything. Chaos continues to grow. Eventually, by 1970,
wait, does it imply that America's probably spying on anti-Israel protesters? Bro, Jonathan Greenblatt in leaked audio for the ADL openly stated he has advisors in the pro-Palestinian groups. Remember, the ADL literally used to have advisors in those very same groups in the 90s, and also were openly, or not advisors, sorry, analysts. Those very same groups were absolutely spying on anti-apartheid activists against South Africa.
There's 30 officers, hundreds of agents, and, you know, the ostensible purpose of chaos.
I do wonder sometimes if there's like an actual like DHS guy watching the stream going, assholes going at it again. Like, not that I'm like important or anything, because you don't have to be important for it to be for someone to be tracking your behavior or the things that you're saying. Like, come on, dude, move on, come on. Boring, move on. Come on, dog, it's boring. Come on. Move on from this. Yo, this is lame. Come on, go gamble.
Was to detect the foreign hand. I mean, chaos was in existence for 7 years. Every time they were asked to report on it, they came back and said, it's not foreign controlled and it's not foreign funded, which was obvious to anybody who was involved in the anti-war movement. There were a lot of people inside the CIA saying, you know, we're spying on our wives and kids, basically. You know, they're going to the demonstrations and we're reading the reports at night. We shouldn't be doing it.
Are we trying to exterminate an entire people? What have we become as a nation?
Americans were waking up to the fact that these unelected men were wielding way too much power and spying not only on the entire world, but on Americans themselves.
Been victimized by necessity, not only with respect to the failure of Congress in the past to exercise proper surveillance over intelligence activities, but also excessive secrecy has created this kind of mystery within the
This
executive
Joe,
branch.
Johnny Harris found the church committee, dude. Oh my God, it's Jover. This is a real vibe shift, dude. That's why he's wearing the pearls, I'm telling you.
I think the church helps lead the charge of taking all of these secrets and excesses and thrusting them onto the national stage and shining a light on them.
There has never been a full public accounting of FBI domestic intelligence operations.
The American people are learning for the first time just how bad this was. 800 witnesses, 10,000 documents. Their secrets were shared. CIA, FBI, NSA, assassination plots.
That's it. Crystal, fire, the dark.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, when it fires, almost.
Spying on Americans.
A wholly comprehensive listing of everything those people thought or did on any subject you can imagine they're having a concern with.
Targeting people like Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights or feminist activists.
Bureau agents were told to attack the new left by disinformation and misinformation.
Anti-war protesters were spied on, intimidated.
COINTELPRO is the name for the effort by the Bureau to destroy people and to destroy organizations. Or as they use the words, disrupt and neutralize.
To be fair, no need for that no more. You know what I'm saying? Every one of us got that dog in him now. We don't need these like deliberate programs to disrupt and destroy. I think you have enough of it. People do it for free. People literally operate like they're little DC wonks on Twitter for free. Awesome.
The Bureau went so far as
they're taking the CIA You are one of them. You're not. You are one of them. Yes, I am famously very disruptive of solidarity. Why? Because I said you can't have a general strike on Reddit. You know. Or wait, I'm famously disruptive of solidarity because I said trying to implement a consumer boycott of Hogwarts Legacy is not going to help you get the message across. You know, famously. The Vanguard's coming from Reddit, folks.
Is to mail anonymous letters to Dr. King and his wife. King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. You are done.
That was taken by Dr. King to mean a suggestion for suicide, was it not?
That's our understanding, Senator.
The CIA's LSD mind control experiments were also detailed to the public.
One of the first things they come across is the MK Ultra papers.
And so were the FBI and CIA's attempts to infiltrate the free press, planting journalists within our newspapers. We would later learn in some investigative reporting that this infiltration of the free press was much more widespread than true.
To be honest, once again, this also doesn't exist anymore, in my opinion, or doesn't have to exist, rather, where we very directly and very openly behave as though we are on the CIA payroll through what is known as access journalism. Like, I think the closest you can get to Operation Mockingbird nowadays is like a Tucker Carlson type, potentially, because ultimately everyone else, State Department's bottom line, they're already defending the State Department. Most recent Israel piece of the New York Times, everything written in the New York Times about Israel is directly, they might as well have a dude working on the State Department payroll, typing out every letter, straight up.
Which had been discovered.
He reported that up to 400 journalists had been paid by the CIA through Operation Mockingbird. And there's no doubt that it was a massive effort and effective.
The Church Committee made a few things clear. Number one, that indeed a group of unelected government employees used immense power and resources of the United States government to pursue programs that were illegal, unethical, and generally out of line with American values and norms. And they did it in secret, outside of any sort of accountability, partly because the U.S. Congress wanted to give them money and turn a blind eye.
I can recall members of Congress who recoiled from responsibility of knowing what was happening. Members of Congress who said, "Don't tell me, I don't want to know." I think that is an indictment of Congress just as severe as the indictment which is laid against me and the intelligence community.
The Dulles wanted to get approval for the civilian budget. All he had to do was take a top line number to the chairman of the Senate on the services committee, and he would say, "This is what we want for this year." And the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee would say, "Okay, that's what we've got, and please don't tell us anything about what you're doing." And so there's no internal change to this world.
But here's the other thing that is so crucial here, which is that when you listen to these hearings, you see people who thought they were doing the right thing, who thought that they were doing what they needed to protect the country.
Oh, come on.
Very scary.
Come on. Dude, come on. Yeah, dude. No, for sure. When I was like training Nicaraguan death squads, okay, I was thinking I was defending American interests. Unless he means like American interest is almost identical to capitalist interest and the interest of serving capitalism. But that's crazy. Bro folded under no pressure? Yes, dude. How are you gonna do 24 minutes of this and then all of what?
No one along the line had a reason to contemplate. Usually,
Many of these agents were earnest patriots. They were operating in a system free of accountability.
No, man. A lot of them, well, first of all, a lot of them were Mormon. Some of them were also deeply racist and Mormon. These guys were ideologically minded. Very much so. Okay? It's not like this is a secret either. Like, dig a little bit deeper. Okay? Yeah. Like, some of them very openly talked about it. Like, Gordon Liddy is a great example. Just an insane person. Okay? it's just so funny to be like, oh man, like what was happening? No, they were literally straight up fascists, straight up anti-communist, which is, you know, usually aligned there perfectly ideologically, and straight up white supremacists too. They loved capitalism, they hated communism, and were openly, literally Nazis sometimes, like straight up, literally Nazis. Gordon Liddy is a great example of a person who was an out and about literal white supremacist Nazi.
And transparency.
Even within the deep state, there are people who are doing things for altruistic and good reasons, and then there are people who are doing things for their own selfish or bad reasons, and you know exactly how many are in each category is, you know, sort of impossible to delineate.
I got questions, but I think
They told MLK to kill himself because they really wanted to stop adultery. It was a higher cause. Yeah, they were like, listen, we're going to tell everybody that you're doing adultery. Please kill yourself kindly. Why? Because we believe you are legitimately doing adultery and we hate that. Not the other stuff. Don't worry about the civil rights movement. We don't care about that. But we don't like that either, but the other thing.
no, and where many other more intelligent, educated humans like to fall in.
There ain't no way he's gonna turn this into like a few bad apples in the CIA shit, right?
In another area,
So after the church committee, all kinds of new oversight regulations come in. There's new committees formed, there's new regulations, and suddenly the intelligence community now finally has some kind of oversight. The deep state was reined in.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did fight back. The church was undermined and
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. The bad apples were eliminated and the deep state was totally reined in.
by these agencies.
CIA people, they hated Frank Church. Jim Hamilton would go around and say Frank Church was a cage of teenager. Dick Helms raged against him, Kissinger, and couldn't believe that the U.S. intelligence was being opened up. On the other hand, Americans were like, oh my God, this is what was being done in my name.
But overall, this is a story of American democracy doing what it's supposed to do, reining in the worst impulses of humans with power, and in the process, avoiding disaster. At least
Dude, no! Bro, what? What? Wait. What? Did he just say we reined it in? Dude, that's great. This is like a meme. This is the meme, which is like all the instances that were bad in the past that the CIA acknowledges are gone. It's just that's something that we learned from.
for a few decades.
One of you
Oh, never mind, I was wrong. Okay.
the leader of the single most powerful nation.
Okay.
Any guiding principle for exercising this principle. When it comes to foreign policy, that would be my guiding question. Is it in our nation's interests? Peace in the Middle East is in our nation's interests. Having a hemisphere that is free from trade.
There's some very, very sketchy details reaching us here at Sky Central.
It's kind of crazy because like he just skipped a step. We did not rein in the CIA. Still, for the record, there was no point like between 1975 and like 2001 where the CIA was not an operator. It was very much still not reined in. So I don't know why he was. And for the record, it still could go along with this overall narrative of like, oh well, we learned from our mistakes. Like you could say Iran-Contra and be like, that actually was bad because that's something that the government acknowledges. You know what I mean? The former head of the CIA was president from 1988 and 1992. This guy's dad, it's like his dad. You're right. This guy's dad, kind of not exactly reined in. I think. I don't you feel like he's over-focused on the CIA to be kind of sensational here, and there are much more boring forms of deep state inside and around government bodies? Yes, but they all fall under the. That's why I always say like the State Department. They all fall under the same banner, defending capital interests.
East is in our nation's interests. Having a hemisphere that is free from trade.
There's some very, very sketchy details reaching us here at Sky Central.
did this. What the fuck? Didn't they do a whole thing about, Hunter Biden's dick pics and how the American people have a right to see it? Interesting. Alright, let's keep going.
And a new call to give power to professional spies and bureaucrats to keep us safe by doing secret things.
By passing the Patriot Act, we will make America safer while safeguarding our civil liberties and privacy.
And then, of course, new agencies, all with variations on the same need.
9/11 is kind of like a Pearl Harbor. There's this desire, we've been attacked, anything goes, we have to strike back. This is an existential struggle. And that same ethos of the early Cold War, anything goes, that returns big time after 9/11. And the CIA seems to asserts without being checked all sorts of powers that they had in the secret before. They implement the torture program. They massively expand the war inspired.
No, we always had a torture program. We implemented a direct torture program and gave legal clearance for torture directly in the hands of the American military and American State Department agencies. That's different. We never stopped doing the torture. It's just that we would usually train people to do torture for us. Now we're doing the torture ourselves, directly.
The kind of things that we'd seen Angleton do in Chaos, those exact same techniques are revived and expanded after that.
Constitutionally protected torture
on a very large scale.
Taxpayers funneling money into millions of new top secret jobs. 22 Capitol buildings worth of new office space that spring up all around this area where I live to house all these new secrets. And inside them, waterfalls of new programs, so many weirdly named programs that no one leader could ever hear about, but will regulate all of them.
There's not a whole lot of effective oversight on something that has grown so big and so bushy.
And none of which should be known to the public. That is, until someone who's worried that history is repeating itself decides to spill the beans.
Breaking news this evening is the identity of the man who sent the Obama administration into defend and explain mode this week. His name is Edward Snowden. He's an American former CIA employee and computer technician. Today he came out as the leaker of classified NSA documents that spell out a secret.
And we all tend to wonder, what if we actually need this now? What if we need all these dark windows and top secret PowerPoint decks where they design how they're going to spy on us? What if our safety relies on what happens inside of all these buildings? So we keep funding them. But in doing so, we must at least acknowledge what we're doing here. We are trading a portion of our freedom.
Wait, what? Our safety relies on this? State safety from what? We are the one who knocks, man. What the fuck? Yeah, our safety. You know what we need? More State Department agencies to defend us from the other homegrown threats that we have cultivated and created en masse. That's what we really need.
Freedom, in exchange for a sense of security. And in the process, we're creating and feeding kind of a new branch of our government power. One that operates outside of this elegant triangle that the founders constructed to trip up the corrupting forces that...
Yeah, we need like another CIA to defend us from the CIA. That's what we need. Seriously.
Run the risk of always possessing men with secret power.
Most everybody agrees that there's over-classification, there's way too much information that's classified, but information is power, and the fewer people that have it, the more power the people who do have it have.
And the result is that when the most powerful man in the world arrives to the most powerful...
Yeah, bro started the video by saying we were afraid of an American Gestapo and concluded the video by saying we kind of need the American Gestapo, and like with no shred of irony. Like, the entirety of this video was like, here's why we have the American Gestapo, here's why it's bad. And then at the end of it, he's like, well, I guess basically he's trying to say, like, is this a valuable trade-off? Okay? That question is ridiculous. For those of you who are going to say, oh, well, you know, he's just asking a question, like he's just forming, he's allowing people to form their own opinions, and it's like, No, because the premise is faulty. At no point is this helping American democracy at all. Every step of the way, every single thing that he detailed, mentioned, was helping some Americans, not you, not your parents. It was helping corporations, people at the tippy top, oftentimes hurting you in the process as well, hurting your fellow countrymen.
Powerful house in the world, promising to rein all of this in, to rein in the excesses, he actually finds that he can't. He's not able to change much of it. Instead, he sits there and watches much of the things that he critiqued grow under his watch. The thing that...
Yeah, like the top of the hour ad break going from 1 minute to 3 minutes long, you know what I mean? You watched it happen, and there was nothing you could do about it except subscribe for $5 or for free to Twitch Prime. Use the 3-minute ad break now.
That he's supposed to control, he finds he doesn't have that much control over it.
These targeted strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorists are indeed ethical and just.
Secrets keep us safe, but secrets also degrade this delicate thing that we have called democracy and accountability. That is...
Yeah, poor Obama, he just wanted to be a podcaster and a Netflix producer, you know what I mean? This is basically the structure of the Chinese dynasty that based their government on checks and balances, different branches, and that basically spied on each other in order to no department got much power, and if they had a new department, would be created to limit the other, or a purge takes place to prune the corrupting system of government.
Until we save ourselves from their everlasting, seductive pull.
The United States must not adopt the tactics of the enemy. Means are as important as ends. Crisis makes it tempting to ignore the wise restraints that make men free.
Congressional hearing into Joe Biden's handling of classified information backfired on Republicans. The special counsel confirmed that Biden actually had a photographic recall.
各位网友、各位同胞，大家好，我是老亮，欢迎来到明路真线。现在台海情势突然之间再次又推高了啊，又发生了一个事情。那么在现在的所谓这个，也是说归这个金门县管的啊，当然隶属于福建漳州的。东定岛附近海域发生了我们一艘渔船翻覆的事件。那么翻覆呢，6人落水，2人获救，2人好像是溺毙了，还有2人好像现在还没找到。那么大陆现在的公务船和这个我们的这个渔船现在把这个东定岛船给围住了，然后呢现在传出来一个非常重磅的一个消息惊人的一个消息，就是解放军和这个中国武警想要登陆东定岛去搜索，但是被东定岛的士兵给拒绝了。那么这个就是我说过这里的引爆方式非常有可能像这个77卢沟桥事变日军说我们一名士兵丢了，我们要进这个进城来搜索然后你不让他搜索，那他马上就过来打你。那么这里其实情势也一样的利用台湾外海外侧这几个离岛制造事端或者弄事情，然后直接就是发生武装冲突，这是最好的。我们来看一下这个环球网转发的新闻简讯。台媒称大陆渔船在金门外海翻覆，大陆渔船金门外海翻覆，5人落海，两岸都出动所谓的力量救援。据台湾联合报3月14日报道，今年14日一早6点多，大陆渔船闽龙鱼61222在金门东定岛西南1.1海里，距离霍山西南15海里翻覆，船上5名大陆船员落海，目前大陆方面已救起1人，仍有4人待救。报道称，金门海军已派出4艘船前往救援，大陆也出动直升机与海救船前往救援，目前搜救仍在进行当中。大家要知道，所谓的大陆这个 联合搜救啊，这个是基本上是胡说八道的啊。怎么样叫胡说八道呢？因为根本就是没有一个所谓的一个联络机制，一个所谓的这个默契，就是台湾报道的，台湾单方面在这里进行报道啊。那么我们来看一下这个新浪军事是最早发布的。新浪军事，福建一艘渔船海上沉没，已救起2人，还有4人正在搜救。记者从相关部门了解到，3月14日20时58分，闽龙鱼6122渔船在东令岛附近海域沉没，船上6人，目前已救起2人，其中4人在搜救中。那么也就是说，新浪军事和央视新浪军事是最早发的。这个事故发生在凌晨2点58分，就是凌晨3点，而不是晚于4个小时以后播报的台湾的这个版本。而且台湾的这个版本播报的其实是有问题的啊，而且还有一个，我们现在不能确定它是因为海浪翻覆，还是因为被海豚球给撞了翻覆，这个现在不好确定。但是现在我们要以我们自己这边的新闻播报为主啊。最早是新浪军事播报的啊，是凌晨2点58分。那么台湾方面报道这个事情是晚了4个小时，因为那个时候他们有可能在干坏事，有可能在睡觉他没那么快的这个资讯能报道这件事情。所以说呢，这个台湾所谓的说联合什么两岸联合搜救，这是胡说八道。因为这是大陆这个船沉了以后，大陆这方面单方面进行这个搜救，台湾根本就没有所谓的联合跟大陆这边好像两岸没事了金门跟大陆好像关系好了我们看联合搜救没有的，那是他们自己派船过来进行假模假样的，就像这叫什么意思？就像有些博主假模假样的别的博主好像出什么事了，假模假样的去替他说话但是没有征得对方博主同意，到最后还是会被对方博主给骂，说你他妈少吃我豆腐，我不需要你他妈逼的替我说话，对吧？我们这里的渔船也一样的呀，你们少来吃我们豆腐我们不需要你们来搜救你台湾海巡署是他妈干嘛的？是他妈海盗集团，你他妈是来搜救你妈逼在添乱的他就是说来这个播报这个现场的。那么其实呢，现在的这个情况，大陆的很多公务船包括海警8020船在这里坐镇，很多渔船在这里一起在这里帮助找这个落海人员，然后中国海警还有这个解放军台湾报道他说这个共军要登这个东令岛那共军指的是中国海警还是指中国解放军？我目前也不太清楚，但大概的看应该是中国海警要上岛去搜，现在他们是拒绝了。这个事情就代表了说要有事情的发生。东定岛它是福建漳州的离漳州很近，所以说这个局势又再次被推高了。老兵说了，昨天绿色贝雷帽过来进驻。他们要玩一手什么？绿色贝雷帽本身在这次大年初5，台湾海巡撞击中国大陆渔船这个事情，以前是从来都没有的。他恶性撞击这个事件以前是没有的。绿色贝雷帽进驻以后就发生这个事情，所以他们现在要玩的是什么玩意儿？所以我们必须要什么？我们要顺他们的意。什么意思？美国绿色贝雷帽是美国陆军的王牌部队，对吧？所谓的王牌部队，真正的他妈怎么样他的这个实力怎么样？是不是吹出来的我个人感觉是吹出来的。因为这一次在这个巴以冲突当中一开始美国也是派了绿色贝雷帽三角洲部队海豹突击队，这叫踢门者，他们组成了一个这个顶级的这个所谓的美军当中的高手吧，组成一个踢门者，到哈马斯这边要来搜寻人质，但是被哈马斯给打退了，所以我觉得他们真实战力也不咋地。然后他们说过来几个连队过来几个连队， 估计像金门一个连队，马祖一个连队，然后这个澎湖1到2个连队，淡水河口还有这个连队，这些地方都是非常近中国大陆的地方，以及直接会爆发武装冲突的地方。大家要知道，这个亚述营就是乌克兰臭名昭著的极端右翼团体亚述营，他们可就是由这些美军的这些特种部队来训练的。那现在他们要把这个草莓兵也训练成这个亚述营，看来这个态势是没有错的。然后呢，他们要玩什么？公开呢？昨天在澎湖那边打架，美军这个入驻这个事情被公开报道以后，这个美军他妈是被揍了看来这些人他只会操作什么无人机，他们要在这个中国大陆附近操作这个自杀式的无人机就是说一旦打起来，用这些自杀式的无人机来撞你这些船，撞你的城市尤其在金门马祖这边，他要干这个事情。但是我说这个是很可笑的大陆绝对有软硬杀伤手段，没有任何问题。那么他们就想告知你，绿色贝雷帽进驻了，这里有美国士兵。你们不是以前说只打蒋舰不打美舰吗？我现在美军在这里，你们敢打吗？到时候如果万一美军有什么闪失的话，美国以此为借口直接军事介入你中国大陆就当心一点。他是在跟你玩这种套路，给你施加压力，就是说告诉你，不要以为只打台军不打美军不要有那么好的事情美军都是我们的督战来督战，而且是我们指挥官。所以老兵讲了，台海这边的这个情势是什么情势？它已经不是单纯的说台湾说要维持现状，我们也不告独立，我们是一个世上的一个国家。No， 他在这个地方要来以台制华的，美国要在这里要来以台制华的也就是说在这个地方就是要制造像乌东一样的这种情况。大家看清楚一模一样的版本在这里复制但是我觉得这个事情也蛮扯淡的。你负责乌克兰事务的美国5月3号人物纽兰这个胖老屁这个胖老屁他也已经辞职了，因为这边的情势他是完全失败了。你要把这一套东西在这个台海这里来复制一下，我觉得这个是很蠢的一个事情，对吧？你在这个地方要把彭金马的这些台军和海巡署，所有我们讲的一切这种叫做刀把子枪杆子跟刀把子要把他们变成这个亚述营，对中国大陆渔民进行这个屠杀这种事件他要这样搞出来。然后我也说了，我个人怀疑大概率在东定岛这一起翻覆事件也是台湾干的事非常有可能是台湾海军再次过来撞东定岛上面也是有美军的他大概率来撞。因为你上次那个泉州的那个事件其实是不了之的，没有一个准话，没有一个准性的，对吧？大陆这边没有立马实在的给予台湾任何的惩罚。这个我说过，中共干这个事情是扣分扣得很厉害的。不要以为这个事情就这么过去了，然后都是记在老百姓的脑海当中的。所以现在解放军包围了台湾，再次战备警巡，搞军事演习，而且解放军东部战区派出了3个中队，在台湾的北部、台湾的东部大量的战机、轰炸机、无人机在包围这里在空中战备警巡突然之间局势又推高了但是老兵要说了，现在抓紧时间就是要武统。绿色贝雷帽他们公开的宣布进驻，这就是违反了大陆的武统红线，该打就得打了，反应不能够再迟钝了。我说过了所以现在要上东定岛去登陆、去检查、去搜索，这种做法是对的，稳步推高，就现在这个方向是对的，没有任何问题习近平在台海这边的方向是对的，但是还是有点慢，要增加速度。 现在中国跟美国之间没有任何的瞎七八的什么多谈的了，中美之间现在就相当于美俄当时在乌克兰快爆点的那个前夕的时刻。拜登跟习近平谈什么旧金山，谈什么巴厘岛，只是来摸你的底的。我们可以再说到拜登这个老阴逼非常的阴啊，这次 TikTok 要退出美国，又是他妈在暗地里操盘的，所以跟这个老阴逼没有什么好多个利落的。台海这边该爆就要爆了啊，不要前怕狼后怕虎的，该打就得打了，否则的话，像这种渔民，这一次我估计大概率也是这个事情是不简单的啊，怎么可能好端端的在家门口就翻掉了？过去我怎么没看到这么多渔船翻掉？最近怎么老是在翻这个渔船？这个福建都已经是个家门口了，有多大的海浪啊？这些渔船如果说一个海浪都经住不住的话，怎么样去出海去捕鱼去？好吧，我们拭目以待，谢谢各位支持。
倫敦 BBC 英國廣播電台，以下1小時播出嘅粵語節目係時事一周。
In the simplest, most reductive terms, they don't like that the Chinese app is better than the American ones. That's it. 170 million Americans use TikTok, myself included. Democracy. The U.S. House could pass a bill that could ban TikTok nationwide. Now, of course, that's quite problematic, right? A lot of people immediately were like, well, I like my TikTok. Why are you taking my treat away? Please don't take my treat away. And as of now, the House has passed it. Now, will it actually pass in the Senate? I do not know. However, Biden has said that he will sign it into law. Now, I think this is ridiculous. Why is this the priority for legislation? Because we are lazy, corrupt pieces in the American Congress. Biden gave the green light by saying he'd sign it. Yes, Lowell overruled. I personally think it is disgusting. I think it's gross. Are there problems with TikTok? Yes. Are these problems that are these the same exact problems that persist in every other social media platform? Absolutely. The fact that they are trying to get the Chinese government, the Chatcom divestment from TikTok, ByteDance, from divesting in TikTok, is specifically because the American government is trying to bully an international company into selling this incredibly successful product that 170 million Americans use to an American. That's it. Unimaginable. It is ridiculous. It's gross. It's peak state capitalism. And it's the worst kind of peak state capitalism. Land of the free, my ass. They're talking about it as though, oh my God, the TikTok is a surveillance thing. Okay, I've talked about this a million times over. Obviously, all the concerns that people have for TikTok exists across the board, okay? This is just pure extortion, and it's also pure control. They do not like that TikTok's lack of regulation or its own regulatory interests are different than the social media platforms that are controlled by the American government in some ways, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, it does not matter, whether it be Google. These are all companies that have backdoors with the intelligence community. These are all companies that will inevitably not allow certain kinds of commentary to exist, or at least cast it aside. They can be bullied by the right-wing Republicans in general. TikTok, on the other hand, does not really have those same considerations because it's not an American company. It's not owned by an American. So, I think for two different reasons, Congress is desperate for pushing the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act. Reason number one, interest rates go up, money is no longer free, the Silicon Valley social media and also Silicon Valley tech bubble is bursting. Mass layoffs. There's obviously a company that is not beholden to those same financial troubles and financial struggles. That company is a Chinese company. ByteDance that owns TikTok. TikTok is popping off. American capital owners salivate at the prospect of being able to purchase this by strong-arming the company, by utilizing the state. This is the most anti-capitalist thing you can do. It's the most like anti-competition, anti-capitalist thing you can ever do. This is pure nationalist interest, pure capitalist nationalist interest in the sense that it is, this is capitalism in practice and not capitalism in theory. Okay? We will never get like real expropriation in this mother country for a company like Boeing, for example, which is floated and kept alive by so many subsidies. But God forbid, there's another company out there that is like competing with Facebook. Oh no, we don't want that. We hate Facebook. As you know, I'm talking we as in like Congress. Congress always talks about how much they hate Facebook, but then they'll go and work at the behest of Facebook. Yeah, it is ridiculous to try and force ByteDance to divest from their own successful product. It is insane. Okay? What an insane thing that we are trying to do here. It blows my mind. It's incredibly hypocritical. It sucks. But there's also the other side of this, because a bill like this can only get a lot of play if there are real valid concerns. Are there real valid concerns with respect to data privacy? Absolutely. Except those concerns are not on TikTok alone. Those concerns exist for every social media company and everything that you do online, as a matter of fact, because in the United States of America, we have data brokers that literally are constantly sucking all of your data and spitting it back out and selling it to people. That is unacceptable. Regulate it. That's not about regulating TikTok, however. That's about regulating all the social media. That would be what a responsible government would do. Of course, we are not a responsible government. We are an irresponsible government filled to the brim with corrupt babies. Another problem. TikTok has a massive influence in the minds of Americans. Fair. True. I've often talked about how TikTok, Chinese company, has a Chinese version of TikTok. It's called Douyin. You will never see on Douyin the shit that bangs on TikTok. The Chinese government heavily regulates what kind of... It is as close to a walled garden as you can get. The Chinese firewall. Obviously, this doesn't mean that they're banning everything and anything, but they do make sure, especially for younger audiences, like they make sure to tailor the content very specifically to the interest that will, I guess, focus on Chinese prosperity, museum TikToks, rather than, TikToks of how ice giants are alive, or that public defender guy Lol overruled. It's like no one should watch him. Not just children, not adults, no one should be watching his TikToks. Okay? Because he's fake. That's another part. So is there something that the government could do, potentially regulate the things that people are seeing on TikTok? That has a lot of First Amendment issues. I don't know how the perfect way to do that would look like. I feel like companies should implement their terms of services that they claim they care about, hate speech laws and whatnot. Now, having said that, that is a real problem for Americans, okay? That's a real problem for the American government because, let's be real, Elon Musk owns Twitter. At the end of the day, the American government can clamp down on Elon. They can say, no more government contracts if you don't get your shit together. They don't, because Elon is right-wing, and that is not disruptive to the forces, to the powers that be. That is not disruptive to the the current oppressive structural hierarchies that we exist under. No matter how Nazi Elon goes, the American government's not gonna, go, hey man, maybe regulate your platform a little bit. He is not offensive to the powers that be because he is the powers that be, I guess. Is that the right way to say it? He is the powerful figure. He is the ability. Having said that, TikTok on its own, I think, is very genuinely, legitimately disruptive for many. Here is the leaked audio of the Apartheid Defense League, ADL, Chief Executive Jonathan Greenblatt freaking out. This was like on October 9th or something too. It was like October 10th. I don't remember. It was like, it was right after October 7th. Here he is freaking out about how, here is Jonathan, Chief Executive of the Apartheid Defense League, Jonathan Greenblatt, freaking out because global youth aren't listening to Israel and what Israel has to say about its own apartheid.
I also want to point out that we have a major
because the interest in trying to sell TikTok to an American came far before Jonathan Greenblatt started chirping about how teens on TikTok are pro-Hamas, okay?
Our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit.
This just gives additional interest. This is just extra. This is just a little bit of extra on the side. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. It makes people a little bit even more excited, more enthusiastic to go along with this kind of thing.
The same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations need to put our energy towards this, like fast. Because again, like we've been chasing this left, right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots of the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last, I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked has long been problematic.
Huh, why are you tracking, why are you tracking pro-Palestinian groups and activists? So strange, because the Apartheid Defense League did not change its ways since the 90s when they got busted for directly doing the exact same thing, this time defending the other apartheid state at the time, South Africa.
Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace. They flicked like this and went to like Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again.
Like, they have literal spies in the activist groups, and he calls them analysts, like, and they're like, wow, this is Iranian propaganda. Listen, big dog, nobody is over here being like, the Iranian state is correct for its domestic affairs, okay? And that we must restore the caliphate or something, and also only the Shia version. Like, literally, we can only, there's only one true Islam, and that is the Shia Islam. It must be, the governments must be run by direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, or peace be upon him, or whatever. Like, that's not what's going on. You can't say something is Iranian propaganda when it's objectively true unless you're trying to defend Iran. This is the problem that many people who defend Israel do not understand. Many people who defend Israel kept literally talking about, like, this is Hamas, Hamas is terrorist, Hamas, not realizing that what that ended up doing for many people was negatively polarize them, because they were inevitably going to be like, yeah, I don't think 30,000, I don't think I'm going to be on the side of the people who killed 30,000 people, almost 45,000 people. So whoever the other side is, I'm with those guys, the guys that are getting blown up. Oh, are they Hamas? Okay, maybe they're not so bad. That's what they did. Because no matter what, there are objectively right and wrong things that people are doing. October 7th, a lot of atrocities occurred, okay? In the hands of the Palestinian resistance groups, 100%. But we're not in October 7th. It is now March 13th. When you kill 70% plus women and children over the span of 5 months, you can't keep talking about Hamas. People are going to be like, okay, well, the Hamas guys are maybe right. This October 8th, the Hamas posture has been a defensive one against Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign. And of course, many platforms would never, in previous years, would never even allow this kind of thing. Would never even allow this kind of conversation to occur. So I think that, like, this is a legitimate issue for people who want to control TikTok. They want to turn it into Instagram. They want to turn it into Facebook. Meta literally openly bans you or suppresses you for being pro-Palestine. That's it. And this is not like a right-wing grievance. This is not the type of grievance that right-wingers bring up all the time, and they're like, oh, why are my grandchildren not calling me? This must be because of the evil liberal social media platforms. They're doing this, actually. Like, no, they just straight up ban you. They openly ban you, and you can't do anything about it. Like, what are you gonna say, bitch? Shut up. We're goddamn Facebook. They openly do it, for the record. Here is Human Rights Watch. Meta's broken promises. Systemic censorship of Palestine content on Instagram and Facebook. That's the Human Rights Watch, dog. This is not like, we're not making shit up. And that's precisely what is very frustrating about TikTok because they do not have that same stress points, as they are not beholden to the American State Department interests. They do not have the same interests. They want to control all of the narrative, and they recognize that the most successful social media platform, as it stands, is one that is uncontrollable. This attempt at regulating the internet is very different than all previous attempts. All the other ones failed, I think, in part because practically they would have been unenforceable, but since the internet is consolidated into less and less platforms, which make it, unfortunately, significantly easier to censor, I'm worried we're watching the slow death of the free internet. The same thing happened to the U.S. paper press in the 1940s. This is a censorship bill, 100%. One thing that a lot of people in the Western world don't recognize is that civil liberties are very important and kind of keep this shit going. Because if you don't do civil liberties, you have to do other stuff. You have to actually, like, improve people's economic circumstances. We're not building any high-speed rail, okay? So the dam will break. You either have to build the high-speed rail and, like, genuinely show to the people that, like, there is prosperity to be had, that the government does have your best interest at heart, which is what they do in China, but then they suppress your civil liberties, right? So people are like, okay, well, I mean, sure, at least the situation seems good. There is, like, a collective consciousness surrounding a genuine improvement into people's material conditions. Now, of course, as time goes by and that worsens and the future prospects of the younger generation in China worsens, you will also see people demanding more civil liberties, for the record, okay? But in America, we ain't got any of that. Why? Because we got $5 jalapeno poppers and we got unlimited, unrestricted access to pornographic material online. We got just slop, okay? We got the bread and we got the circuses. Now, if you take away the circus, well, Rome's gonna burn. And I don't think these guys understand that. Or maybe they think they can continue, limiting and making you feel like you have this choice in what you are watching and what you are consuming, while simultaneously consolidating it and making it worse and worse. If the EU is not implementing the same policies and the U.S. government doesn't really care about the false info and radicalization on TikTok, it's just about capitalism and the fact that they can't control it. The EU has much stricter rules on these things. Yes. I think it's both, though. The reason why I think the United States cares about it from a material perspective is because they're selfish and they want to definitely give this gift wrap, phenomenally successful social media platform to an American enterprise, right? That's right, baby. We'll claw it away from your hands. That's what they're fucking trying to do. Which is, by the way, impossible. It is so dumb. It is such a dumbass bill. It blows my mind. Here's how it starts. To protect the national security of the United States from the threat posed by foreign adversary-controlled applications such as TikTok and any successor application or service, and any other application or service developed or provided by ByteDance, or an entity under control of ByteDance Limited. Their goal is to protect the national security of the United States. Everything is sold from the same militant framework, bro. This is a social media application. You are not doing this to protect national security interests. You are doing this legitimately, first and foremost, because you want to sell it to an American, or at least like someone who is an ally. You want to give it to a person that is on the nice boy list. Obviously, it's also beneficial because when you sell it to someone on the nice list, let's say like Elon Musk or whatever the right? Not him, obviously. I think he's against this bill for understandable reasons, because he himself also has a lot of foreign nations that have invested Saudi Arabia into Twitter. So that might be a little bit tricky for him personally if this were to push. So I think he has his own personal interest in making sure that this doesn't happen. Even though he simultaneously, my reaction I take is that TikTok should be banned. I understand it's for the wrong reason, but the TikTok algorithm is a fucking scourge on the brains of our citizens. Right move for the wrong reasons. Also, I don't use TikTok and I still get plenty pro-Palestine content. I think that angle is overblown. I just showed you a Human Rights Watch article from December openly criticizing Facebook, literally systematically censoring Palestinian content. Okay? I'm sorry. They want to make this, they want to be able to, they absolutely want to be able to control TikTok in a similar fashion. That's it. The national security angle is bullshit. The problems that we are talking about with respect to algorithms, with respect to data privacy, with respect to surveillance, all of those problems persist in every single social media platform. We have the American government, if they were responsible, if they truly cared about these issues, what would they do? They wouldn't try to divest, they wouldn't try to forcibly divest ByteDance from TikTok. They would try to regulate all social media platforms that enter the American marketplace. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that because this has nothing to do with that at all. This, first and foremost, is about making money for a sector that has a lot of money and a lot of lobbying that's currently blowing up a little bit. In the simplest, most reductive terms, they don't like that the Chinese app is better than the American ones. 170 million Americans use TikTok, myself included. Democracy. You need to be locked up by Trump. You need to be held accountable and get locked up for committing treason against the U.S., you traitor. You're a traitor to the United States and you're committing treason. You need to be locked up. As soon as Trump comes in the office, you will be behind bars. Trust me. Wait, what? Why? I think it is unimaginable that this passes, like that there are people that want to pass this. It's ridiculous. Luckily, my goat, my king, Donald Trump, is against it. Okay? No matter what that dumbass in the chat just said, my goat, once again, 2 for 2. First, he nuked the immigration bill. Why? Because he's woke secretly. MAGA communist, okay? He nuked the immigration bill, the right-wing immigration bill that Joe Brandon, Genocide Joe, wanted to push for, and now he's trying to stop this TikTok ban from happening. He is my GOAT! 2 for 2, baby! 2 for 2! Put those goddamn numbers on the board. Donald Trump 2, Genocide Joe 0. Woo!
Future is hanging in the balance in America because in the last hour the House of Representatives has overwhelmingly passed a bill that would give the Chinese owner about 6 months to divest the app's American assets or face a ban. TikTok is one of the world's most popular apps with more than 170 million users in the US alone. So let's head to Washington. Let's head to our North America correspondent Nomi Iqbal, who's been watching it. Just start, because I know we've had the vote in the last hour, but just give us a flavour of the sorts of contributions before they voted, because American politics is riven with partisan politics, but here there is much more bipartisan agreement, isn't there?
Bipartisan.
There was, and it was all very civilised and polite when various lawmakers were making their arguments in the chamber. As you said there, it was passed by an overwhelming amount. It was Republican leaders that really fast-tracked this bill through. So just to give you
Do you think ByteDance would actually divest? No, that's insane. What are you talking about? That's like $7 gazillion. What? Divest to who? It is a ridiculous bill. It's such a ridiculous bill. Maybe back in the day when America was the top dog across the board and could like legitimately shut your access to the international market, and America can still do that to places like North Korea. But we're talking about China. Like, come on, dude. They've already entered the marketplace. Temu is another one. They keep serving the hot sausages, the slop that the fat hogs and hogalinas want in the Western world. You can't compete. They're beating us in our own game, and we're butthurt about it. Straight up. Since fucking Deng, they've been doing this. Since Deng. And it's like, we're so mad, but we can't stop ourselves because we love eating the slop. So we can't stop it. We're like, oh, I love the slop. Please, what is going on? I can't stop this slop. I love it. I love cheap consumer commodities. I love it so much. And guess what, dude? The Dengis Gambit was correct. I'm not a Dengis myself personally, but it was correct. It was. It cooked Western labor protections and lack thereof, whatever remaining labor protections that existed. It cooked manufacturing, moved it over to China. China developed tremendously as a consequence of that. And now they keep doing the same shit. They keep giving the hot garbage to the audiences that want it. And they do it better than we do. Why? Because, well, they have state backing. WTO report recently their big match that Deng stays winning. China's approach to target industries for global market domination by Chinese companies using an array. Policies and practices. This is the funniest cope. America recognizing that, yes, if you do put the full-throated support of the goddamn government or a massive economy like the Chinese one now, then all of a sudden you can't fucking compete. You can't compete. We saw this a couple months back when the EU openly was talking about like how Chinese electric vehicles are flooding the European markets and cooking European competition. Republican admitted it on the House floor earlier.
Only impacted sites are those associated with foreign adversary apps, such as TikTok.com. It can never be used to penalize individuals. The text explicitly prohibits that, and it cannot be used to censor speech. It takes no position at all on the content of speech, only foreign adversary control. Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under...
You can't do it, bitch. You can't do it. Okay? You can't. It's too late. Too late. It's too late. Shut up. Ultimately, people like it. And if the American project only works because we have our treats, then you can't take the treat away. You can't take the treat away and make it worse, especially after you have radicalized entire generations against government intervention in corporations in perpetuity. That's it. That's my point. This is the Ron DeSantis moment, okay? Ron DeSantis put the cart before the horse. He went crazy. He was like, oh yeah, I love the woke stuff, the culture war stuff. We got to do that all the way until he actually started using government intervention to attack a massive corporation, Disney. And the moment that he did that, everyone was like, whoa, what the f are you doing? chill. Now, Disney is an American corporation, so it's a little bit different, but the reception on moves like this from the broader American electorate is going to be very, very angry. In a way, it's not all that different from the hogs that were like, I need to go to Applebee's during the COVID shutdowns that never even happened. People love their treats. We don't have anything if we don't have our treats. And I don't think like some maybe young congresspersons understand that reality, or maybe they're too terrified of TikTok's influence that they're just failing to recognize that reality. Dang, imagine living in a nation and the only pull you have is convincing people about how you're not a champagne socialist. You haven't done anything except inflame social tensions and ineffective means. You're the worst type of influencer. It's always so funny when people come in and say this. Yeah, dude, I know.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe. A winner. A winner. This is...
Bro, even she was like, nah. Bro, these people are insane. We in debate class when I have no idea about the subject. This didn't cook, but she's new, so not the hardest L. Harry Sasson popping off on defending TikTok. I attended briefings, unclassified and classified, about TikTok. I reviewed articles, watched hearing videos about TikTok. Unless new information is presented to me, my position is as follows. I will vote no on any attempts to ban TikTok from Americans who choose to use it. Zelensky said on video today that Macron promises French troops for Ukraine and he will announce it tomorrow. Nice. Let's go, dude. Fuck it. YOLO mode. It's time. It's time, dude.
30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
Gallagher also falsely states that the bill cannot penalize individuals, as though blocking millions of Americans from their preferred social media platform is not a penalty, and denies that the ban would censor speech, even though it would explicitly prevent Americans from expressing speech over TikTok. Yeah, I mean, they're giving the game away pretty openly, I think. Yeah, that's where we're at.
The numbers 352 to 65 voted for it to be banned. Of course, that's not the end of it, Matthew. The next step is for it to go through the Senate, where it'll probably face a much tougher passage, if it will even get there. But President Biden has said if it does get to the Senate and is passed, he will sign it into law. But TikTok has really lobbied hard for this not to happen. It's mobilized its 170 million US users to really ring up their local representatives, telling them not to do this. And despite that, this has still gone through the House.
Yeah, TikTok gonna learn the hard way that 170 million people can be against something, and that's not gonna change. What they should be doing instead is greasing the monkeys in Congress, okay? That's what you gotta do. Let's be real. Let's be for real, okay? There is no democracy in this country. We've never had a democratic process. Good to apply pressure. I was listening into news reports, okay, talking about how, like, they've gotten a massive amount of calls every single day since this bill was supposed to pass, okay?
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
TikTok is a plague to society. I would be elated if it gets banned. I don't know. I don't get your point, to be honest. Everything that you're angry about TikTok exists in every single social media platform to the same degree. In many instances, TikTok's algorithm is just cranked up. It's on steroids, okay? The issue here is not about like actual regulatory control over what you see, or ensuring that we're not like radicalizing citizens or making them dumber. If that was the case, this would be a totally different bill. That would still run into some constitutional issues, obviously, because of restricting free speech. Your line of thinking is why nothing gets done in Congress. Yeah, because you support lobbying when it's convenient. Your line of thinking is why nothing gets done in Congress. No, my line of thinking is that I want actually good bills to pass and not shitty bills that are not even done specifically for any real reason. You're the type of person that looks at a bill at face value and goes, well, it's like defending democracy, so this bill must defend democracy. It's idiotic. There's a reason why they don't tailor bills like this around giving a very successful social media company by force to an American act because we're butthurt. Like, duh. Hello? Are you the type of dude that looks at pro-lifers and goes, actually, these guys do care about the sanctity of life? I'm a political commentator. My job is to help you understand that this is just pure marketing, is to show you what the real interest is behind the words that they are using. This is literally all I do. All I do is basically the movie that Zizek always points to, like the guy who puts the glasses on and then takes the glasses off and you're like, okay, what's going on here? That's all I do. That's literally all I do. Thankfully, I don't know any adults who use TikTok. I'm sure my nieces, nephews, and students will be upset, but cringe prevention will exist because TikTok is competition for Google and Meta, American companies. Yes, we're going to do the Don Lemon shit in a second. You want to understand the gripe against TikTok, this is a perfect representation of what the gripe is, okay? It's the classic, what kind of Chinese are you? Are you the Japanese kind or this new Singaporean kind that I'm hearing all about? You're still Chinese. You look Chinese. You are Chinese.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for 2.5 years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports of any other nations?
No.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions. You said earlier, in response to a question, that what happened at Tiananmen Square in June of 1989 was a massive protest. Did anything else happen in Tiananmen Square?
Yes, I think it's well documented. It was a massacre.
There was an indiscriminate slaughter of hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens.
This is a perfect representation of America? Yeah. Bro, this is literally, this is just pure, unfiltered, unadulterated racism, bigotry, xenophobia in display, okay? And is being packaged as like serious, like an adult who's making a serious assessment, protecting America. That's like 90% of Republican gripes, by the way.
Elon Musk tells Don Lemon, quote, contract is canceled, end quote. Now in a moment, I'm going to speak exclusively with Don Lemon, and he has clips of the nearly hour-and-a-half interview with Musk. Clips like this one that we received from Don's production team.
Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think? Do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
We're going to have more clips from Lemon's interview with Musk in a moment. In a statement earlier today, Lemon writes in part, quote, there were no restrictions on the interview that he willingly agreed to. We had a good conversation. Clearly, he felt differently. His commitment to a global town square where all questions can be asked and all ideas can be shared seems not to include questions of him from people like me. Now, CNN reached out to X for their comment, and their response is, quote, we reserve the right to make decisions about our business partnerships, and after careful consideration, X decided not to enter into a commercial partnership with the show. Now, this decision, coming as Musk had, of course, publicly courted Lemon and has repeatedly made a commitment to free speech when he bought Twitter again and again and again.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech where Twitter has become kind of a de facto town square. Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. I really can't emphasize this enough. We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters. It's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. It's damn annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. That is a sign of a healthy, functioning free speech situation.
Again and again and again. And remember, Musk's X has over 250 million daily active users. 250 million people on this planet resolve it. It is the town square. Joining me exclusively out front is Don Lemon. So Don, you do this 91-minute long interview with Musk. You sit down with him. This is the culmination. He had actively courted you to come on one of his tweets. Have you considered doing your show on this platform? Maybe worth a try. Audience is much bigger. It had been public. Then you had reached a deal. I'll talk about that later. Then he texts 24 hours after this 90 minute.
昨天啊，我做仁爱礁那期节目，做完之后，网上我看有些人评论说，王军，你看就是大外宣，他在南沙群岛这个问题讲的话，跟中国政府讲的如出一辙啊，基本上站在中国的立场上，那根本没有从国际法的角度来讲来分析中共啊这些行为是不是合法啊，更没有讲到南海仲裁案啊，所以你看这暴露性大外宣是吧？我这里要讲几点，首先第一点。我虽然现在流亡到海外，但我毕竟是中国人。我基于中国人的立场，维护中国的国家主权，我觉得这是天经地义的。比如说，现在我只是一个个人，你想想，当时海峡两岸开战的时候，打内战的时候啊，当时西沙在1974年，中共不就是从南越政府那儿开始抢西沙群岛吗？结果中国的东海舰队的军舰啊，要通过台湾海峡，就在夜里。过去啊是不行的啊，过去中国的舰队啊，大陆的舰队都是绕在台湾岛外，然后才能走到南海。但是呢，由于当时西沙战事紧，东海舰队的舰队顾不了那么多了，就从台湾海峡直接过来了。结果国军就把这个消息报告给蒋介石，说怎么办？是不是给他击沉了呀？蒋介石听到这个报告之后说西沙战事紧，就让他们过去吧。这个故事啊，当时我听到的时候非常感慨啊。就是海峡两岸，尽管双方互为敌人啊，但是面对西沙群岛这样一个主权争夺的过程中，实际上双方是有默契的，就允许大陆的军舰从台湾海峡通过。至此，中国大陆的军舰通过台湾海峡就成为了这么一个先例吧，以后就都可以从台湾海峡通过了啊。也包括当时在南沙的时候，中国跟越南打。结果中国的军舰路过太平岛的时候，在太平岛还做了补给啊。据说太平岛的官兵当时还给中国军舰、中国的海军点赞，因为他们觉得自己没有能力在南沙群岛维护自己的海权，但是中国大陆的军队可以，那他们也为中国大陆的军队点赞。这就说明什么？在涉及到国家主权这个问题上啊，我觉得是超越彼此之间的意识形态的，甚至超越彼此各自的政治立场。我觉得这一点，我觉得应该是一个基本共识啊，这是第一点。第二点，有人说我的节目中间就只谈南海啊，中国在南海权益过程中只谈所谓的战胜国权益，没有谈所谓的历史性权益。因为中国所有的文件啊一直在讲，中国在南中国海啊、南海诸岛的权利啊，9段线、11段线啊，这是自古以来无可辩驳的主权，所以我应该去论述这个。但是在我看来，所谓的历史性权利啊，确实就站不住脚，因为历史性权益什么，自古以来你到那打过鱼，是不是？你想想，南海诸岛离中国多远啊？那黄岩岛离中国大陆就1300公里，那到仁爱礁那个地方就2000公里开外了啊！你想想，中国的渔民在历史上到那儿打鱼，不是说没有啊，那肯定的机会也非常少。但你要想想，你到那儿打鱼的概率大，还是菲律宾的渔民到那儿打鱼的概率大？那菲律宾离仁爱礁一共只有100多海里啊，那越南到南海诸岛打鱼的概率大不大呀？你说这个南海诸岛这么爱沙是中国的神圣领土不可分割的一部分，那越南也讲万里长滩呐，说万里长滩那也是越南自古以来啊。所以说，如果要是只谈自古以来，这就没有解了。所以自古以来不是现代国际法领土索取、主权索取的依据。这是非常重要的一点。其实这一点在后来的南海仲裁过程中间也被非常清晰的这个驳斥出来了。所以我觉得讲历史权利没有太大的意义啊。其实中国在南海诸岛的权利，就是来自于2战期间中国参加战争，并且获得了战胜国的地位，然后呢由此获得了一个战胜国权益。大家可以想象一下，中国如果不是2战的战胜国，别说南海诸岛了，台湾澎湖都没有。 所以中国在南海诸岛的权利是衍生于其实这个整个台湾和澎湖这个回归中国的这么一个权利。要知道，在上个世纪30年代的时候啊，日本占领了整个东沙群岛、西沙群岛和南沙群岛，曾经有法国占领，也被他们都赶走了。所以事实占领，日本是从上个世纪30年代完成的啊。那么完成之后呢，他就把它划归到了当时日本所属的台湾，台湾下面的高雄县管辖。那么你想想，二战结束之后，日本的台湾以及澎湖列岛全部都回归中国了。那么回归中国的时候，后来又有旧金山合约了。那么你南海诸岛作为当时高雄县管辖的区域，由中国政府接收，这有充分的法理依据。虽然说到1951年，就是旧金山合约签约的时候，法国人捣乱，法国人说不行，那西沙群岛属于我们的，所以后来只是说日本放弃这一部分的权利。至于这玩意儿归属谁，还不到这儿论啊。但是中华民国跟日本签署战后合约的时候，1951年啊，那么实际上就明确约定这一部分都回归中国。所以其实这件事情，中国在南海诸岛的所有的权益都来源于中国在二战期间战胜国的这样的一个法律地位。我觉得这一点是最为重要的，不用谈什么所谓的历史权益啊。紧接着就有人说了，他说你为什么不谈前几年特别重要的那个南海仲裁案，是吧？那个南海仲裁案其实涉及到南海诸岛和中国的争议，那个多重要啊！所以你为什么不敢谈？我其实敢谈，我今天就来聊一聊当时2013年的南海仲裁案。这南海仲裁案的背景是什么？就是当时中国和菲律宾围绕着黄岩岛所展开的明争暗斗。我们知道这个黄岩岛啊，中国和菲律宾呢斗了10几年。一开始上个世纪90年代的时候是菲律宾控制的，后来中国通过一系列的手段，终于把菲律宾全部从黄岩岛给赶出去了。到2012年的时候，由于菲律宾当时是扣押中国的渔民嘛，所以中国出动了海警、海监，把菲律宾都给赶走了。到2013年的时候，中国事实上是控制住了整个黄岩岛。这黄岩岛控制之后，在2013年的1月21号，菲律宾呢给中国政府发了一个照会，这个照会特别有意思，他就承认中国事实上已经控制了黄岩岛。那你想想，这菲律宾是不是给人感觉挺傻的？他承认中国控制了黄岩岛吧？其实这是个陷阱。为什么呢？因为就在第2天，菲律宾就把中国告上了这个法庭，要求国际仲裁法庭啊，就在海牙的国际仲裁法庭啊，就中国和菲律宾在南海诸岛的一些争议问题上进行强制仲裁程序。也就是说，头1天给中国政府发了一个照会，第2天他就提起仲裁程序了啊。中国政府一开始还没反应过来味儿，说这菲律宾搞什么鬼呢？结果一看菲律宾搞这个呢，是吧？发现这个照会不行，不能接，因为菲律宾承认中国占领黄岩岛不是好事儿，所以在2月14号还是反正1个月之后，就把这个照会给退回了。那意思就是说，你承认我占领黄岩岛，我也不承认你这份照会。虽然说我已经占领了黄岩岛了，所以你要知道，国际之间大家彼此之间这种所谓的这种勾心斗角，实际上挺有意思的啊。那么菲律宾当时提起的这个仲裁的背景是什么？是因为1982年联合国搞了一个叫这个国际海洋公约。这个国际海洋公约啊，中国和菲律宾都是缔约国。这个海洋公约里头就规定了缔约国的一些权利啊。这里头有一个非常重要的权利，就是所谓的200海里的这个专属经济区。这个其实人们的领海最开始的时候是3海里，那美国一开始只承认3海里的领海，之外的不承认的。结果后来国际海洋公约里明确规定，只要是你沿海岸的国家，你的领海是12海里，然后在12海里之外还有个毗邻区。这个毗邻区就是台湾经常说的禁限制海域，是吧？限制海域就毗邻区，毗邻区里头一个国家可以在这个地方有行政管辖权，虽然说不是你的领海，你进来的话我也要管，我可以驱离。那么在这个24海里之外呢，还有一个200海里的专属经济区，这200海里专属经济区是国际海洋公约规定的。那这个是非常重要的，200海里300多公里。那么这个虽然不是你的领海，但是你作为大陆架延伸的这个国家， 你有权在这里头对你的自然资源进行开采。你比如说石油，你可以开采；你比如说打鱼，你可以捞鱼，别的国家就不能到这个地方要捞鱼。所以它就一下子延伸了这个海洋权益。那中国呢和菲律宾都加入到了海洋公约，但是这个海洋公约里头就规定了，它这里有一个强制仲裁程序，如果有争议的话，那可以强制仲裁。所以菲律宾呢就在2013年的1月22号把中国告上了所谓的这个仲裁法庭。面对这个仲裁啊，菲律宾提出了什么要求呢？主要就这么几段话。首先，他说中国这个历史上搞的这个九段线，这不行，这不对，没有这个历史依据啊。这个要求国际仲裁法庭裁决中国的九段线这东西没有历史依据，这第一个方面。第二个方面呢，就裁决中国南海占领的这些岛礁啊，本身呢都不属于这个正规的岛礁，比如说是美济礁、主碧礁、永主礁、华阳礁、南门礁什么这些礁啊，他说认为这些礁都不是岛，都是一些低潮高地。那么也就是说，按照你国际海洋法，低潮高地是没有权利主张所有主权的，那这很明显，对吧？所以说最重要的裁决就是这两项。第三项当然他也说了，那中国军舰、中国的海监驱赶菲律宾的渔民在黄岩岛那个区域里头打鱼，这个都是有问题的啊，都是违法的，而且还要裁决中国对那些就是那几个岛礁啊进行吹沙造岛啊，本身也极大的破坏了环境。大致就这么几项。中国面对菲律宾的这么一个强制裁决的这么一个要求啊，中国采取的这个主张呢，就是不承认，也不参加，然后呢也不接受啊，就是三不政策嘛。那么中国当时不承认不参加呢，他在2014年搞了一个叫中国立场文件。这个中国立场文件呢，其实就是阐述中国在跟菲律宾他们之间冲突之间中国的立场啊。这个中国立场文件呢，主要有这么几个缘由啊。一个最重要的缘由，中国就是认为国际海洋公约啊没有权利就领土划分问题进行裁决，而中国跟菲律宾之间的冲突啊，实际上是一个领土划分问题。你不是说裁决什么礁啊、什么低潮高地啊，这都是假的，你就是想划界，而划界是一个统一的问题。所以中国政府的态度是，首先确定哪些岛属于中国的，然后我们再谈这个东西到底是低潮高地也好啊，这个划界应该怎么划也好啊。你不能在这个基础上，你先搞这个是低潮高地，因为中国政府有一个被动的问题是什么呢？他当时，我上期节目讲，他重新回到南海的时候，其实南海已经无岛可占了，除了国民党台湾占了一个太平岛以外，其他所有的岛都被越南、马来西亚和菲律宾给瓜分完了。所以他要在南海体现自己的存在，只能去占那些低潮高地，美济礁啊、华阳礁啊、永暑礁啊。其实占这个礁盘的时候，跟越南还打了一架。但是这些礁盘确实从国际法上来讲，它确实是低潮高地，它不是正规的岛。那没办法，没地方可占了，你只能占这些地方啊，你只能去占仁爱礁啊，你只能去占华阳岛啊，对吧？否则的话，你在南海人都没人理你啊。你在南海没有存在，你怎么可能在南海参与利益分配呢？那这是一个现实问题。所以，中国就认为，所以你要把这个岛屿的归属先给我搞清楚了。你菲律宾，你当时占领我们中业岛呢？你占领我们的中建岛呢？你占领我们的南威岛呢？一共7个岛，马欢岛呢？这些岛我们中国认为都是我们的。那你这些你不划清楚，你单纯说这是低潮高地，那怎么行呢？所以中国认为这是一个划界问题，不是一个所谓的一般的海洋性质的认定问题。这第一点。第二点，中国说我在2006年的时候给国际给联合国我发了一个这个声明，这声明说国际海洋公约我虽然签署了，但是涉及到划界问题的问题，我认为我不接受强制仲裁程序。这第二个。第三个问题，中国就说我跟菲律宾之间，我们当时签订了一个南海共同行动声明，这个南海共同行动声明里头就规定了，双方第一和平解决，不通过武力解决分歧；第二呢，就是说我们通过谈判解决双边的分歧。那么我们谈判中双方都主张通过谈判解决了，你怎么又搞仲裁了呢？是你菲律宾卑鄙小人！你看，你明明已经承认了，你应该是通过谈判解决，你怎么又搞仲裁了呢？ 中国的3大理由啊。这个菲律宾呢，认为这3大理由都不是理由，于是还是强制进行到了这个仲裁程序。那进入到这个仲裁程序之后，那国际海牙仲裁庭啊，就成立了专门的一个特别法庭。这个特别法庭呢，按照规定，你双方都来的时候，各自可以指定1名法官，然后他们自己呢会指定3名法官，一共是5名法官。那菲律宾首先指定了1名啊，那中国不来，菲律宾又指定了1名，所以菲律宾指定了2名法官。后来呢，他们又搞了3名法官，所以一共是5名法官。整个这个南海仲裁程序大概就是分为2部分，一部分就是涉及到有没有管辖权的问题，就是到底中国政府说的你没有管辖权这个问题，这个成不成立？那么首先一开始审来审去说有管辖权，他们的理由主要是说，就中国既然签署了国际海洋公约，你就没有权利就海洋公约的某一个条款进行保留，没有先例，你要接受这个公约就全部接受，你不能说我签署了这个公约，然后这个公约的某一个条款我不接受，那不行，你不能光接受好的，然后你保留坏的，这个不行。可是这是一个非常重要的原因。第二，就中国当时虽然说没有参与到这样一个仲裁啊，但是其实中国通过他的中国立场文件也表明了，也可以知道他的反对的理由，所以形成了争端，其实就有权利进行裁决。这第2条。第3条，中国说国际仲裁法庭没有权利对划界问题进行裁决，这个法庭认为这是对的。但是呢，菲律宾没有涉及到划界问题，菲律宾很狡猾啊。菲律宾说，他说我其实不涉及到主权问题，我可以假定中国主张的主权呢，全都是中国的，在这个基础上，我们来认定这些礁盘到底是不是这个低潮高地，然后呢，跟菲律宾的专属大陆架之间200海里的专属经济区之间是什么关系？你想这狡猾吧？为什么狡猾？因为他假定说争议的这个主权都是中国的。那黄岩岛他不是说了吗？就是你中国占的啊，这是你中国的啊。但是你想想，菲律宾占领了7个岛，这7个岛中国认为都是中国的，他假定这东西都给中国，他给吗？他不可能把这7个岛给中国。他虽然说假定这东西都属于中国，但实际上不是给中国的呀。所以菲律宾这个非常聪明也好，非常狡猾也好啊，他巧妙的把这个主权问题给绕开了。所以他说你看我没有裁决主权问题，我只是裁决美济礁到底是礁盘还是岛还是低潮高地，这个储备礁到底是岛还是低潮高地还是礁盘，我只要求你认定这个，然后你认定清楚之后，你跟我菲律宾的200海里的这个专属经济区到底是什么关系？聪明吧？确实是很聪明。所以当时啊，就中国没有参加这个南海仲裁案，社会上也有一些争议啊，就中国是不是应该参加？我的观点呢，确实参加不参加意义不是很大，因为中国去了也是必输无疑，绝对是输，没有赢的任何可能性。就是你按照菲律宾的这样的一个裁决内容来看，中国完全没有胜诉的可能性。当然，菲律宾在仲裁过程中首先提出来所谓的中国的历史权益不靠谱啊，我觉得这个呢确实也有一定的道理。怎么说呢？因为中国所谓的当时的9段线、11段线啊，都是1947年国民政府制定的，然后中华人民共和国继承下来的。所谓的历史性权利，中国有一条讲过，说历史上渔民呢在这个地方经常打鱼，所以你看这就是中国历史性权益。但是人家海牙国际法庭啊说得非常清楚，他说捕鱼权呢只是一项私权，不是一项国家的历史性权利，这2者要搞清楚啊。所谓私权是什么意思呢？它是属于私人的、个人的，也包括社会团体的。举个例子吧，当时在白令海峡那个地方的所谓的划界的时候，管辖权划界的时候，白令海峡那个地方不是有爱斯基摩人天天捕海豹啊、捕鱼啊他们之类的啊？那么人家是历史上几百年、上千年人就这么过来的，所以当时白令海峡裁决案的时候，就明确的说了，你这个管辖权的分割不涉及到对人土著这个地方的捕猎权的这个管辖和划分。也就是说，人家爱斯基摩人，人家历史上怎么捕鱼，跟你们这几个国家怎么划这个管辖权没有任何关系。你划完之后，你也不能干涉到人家的这个捕猎权。 什么意思？那也就是说，这项权利就是一项私人权利，不是所谓的国家权利。所以我在节目一开始讲了，中国在南海主张的历史权利，在现代国际法确实于法无据。你再说也没有用。所以菲律宾呢，这攻击的第一点，所谓中国历史上的历史性权利，在南海，根据现在菲律宾所主张的200海里的专属经济区，到底什么关系？你给我搞清楚。就算你中国主张的主权都是你的，那我这200海里专属经济区跟你这有没有关系啊？你画一下，如果真的是按照他们的那个200海里专属经济区划分之后，中国的这9段线就没了，就变成了南海中间一条非常细的那么一个小道。那你菲律宾不就目的就达到了吗？是吧？当时他们提出了这样的一个仲裁之后，有好几个国家都对这个仲裁非常感兴趣。越南就发照会说，哎呀，这个我们得去听一听啊。日本、马来西亚，好几个国家周边呢都要去了。去之后呢，这个法庭就裁决说你们可以听，但是你不能不发言啊。如果你要想发言的话，你就必须成为正式的仲裁方。这几个国家其实也各怀鬼胎啊，因为他们实际上也不愿意直接参与仲裁啊，因为万一仲裁的结果对他不利呢？因为这个仲裁结果只对当事双方有效。也就是说，菲律宾跟中国之间仲裁，那他就只对中国和菲律宾有效。越南不参加，越南先看一下这仲裁结果对他有没有效，对他有没有利。没利的话，那他参加仲裁对他也得到不了什么呢。所以他们都是派一个观察小组到处去参与，拿到所有的文件，但是呢，他不发言。但这里头有一个角色就特别重要，就是中华民国代表啊，也希望能够参加到这个仲裁。因为关于这个所谓的仁爱礁啊、黄岩岛啊，不光是中国大陆声称对这里有主权的，台湾也声称啊，中华民国也声称啊，它是争议方啊。结果呢，当时中华民国要求参与这个仲裁的时候，被这个仲裁法庭给驳回了，因为中华民国根本不是国际海洋公约的缔约国。当然，同时还有一个非常重要的原因，因为一个中国的原则，它也不会承认作为一个主权国家的地位。当然，这里头我要讲，正是因为这一点，其实菲律宾利用之后，让中国受到了很大的损失。这里就涉及到整个在南海仲裁过程中间非常重要的一点，就是关于太平岛到底是岛还是礁的问题。2014年的时候，菲律宾又递交了一批文件，这批文件就要求认定太平岛到底是岛还是礁，因为这是一个非常重要的一个这个角力点。为什么？因为太平岛如果是岛，完整的岛屿，按照国际海洋公约的话，它就拥有12海里的这样的一个领海，同时还拥有200海里的专属经济区。那你想想，依据这个太平岛划200海里，那整个跟菲律宾之间的专属经济区就重合了，双方的划界一谈，那就主动多了。但是如果你不是一个完整岛屿，只是一个岩礁的话，按照国际海洋公约，你就只拥有12海里的领海，没有获得200海里专属经济区的权利。但是大家可以看到这个局面了，台湾占领了太平岛，但是呢，他想参加这场仲裁呢，又不被允许。大陆呢，这个虽然说是被动的被裁决方，但大陆呢也不太希望台湾能够参加这场仲裁嘛。大陆呢又不实际控制着这个太平岛嘛，所以菲律宾充分利用了海峡两岸这样一种分裂的局面，开始搞这样的一个仲裁。于是呢，那么太平岛到底是不是岛，在法庭上就形成了一个对菲律宾较为有利的局面，因为无论是中国大陆也好，和中华民国也好，都没有派人去啊。那么国际海洋公约里头对什么是岛有非常明确的这样的一个规定，就说你必须维持常住居民生存的基本条件，比如说有淡水、有农业活动、有经济活动，这么几个条件。结果呢，菲律宾就提了很多历史文件，说上个世纪啊，日本人当时占领的时候啊，这个地方有工厂，还有搞鸟粪的，更早的时候有点渔民，但是呢，都不是常住的居民，不是常住的居民嘛，临时性的。后来在2战期间，美军的飞机还把太平岛给炸了，炸完之后，中华民国政府来接收。这一点我要说，其实台湾不太争气，台湾占了太平岛占了70年，没有搞任何开发。 真就搞了一帮这个海巡署的这个100-200人在那驻守啊。你想想，70年你不在这个地方搞个居委会，你不搞个100-200人在那常住，这要是大陆早就搞成了。我去西沙群岛去采访的时候，西沙那么恶劣的地方，那矿载沙洲，我印象特别深，那连棵树都不长的地方，那个地方就有居民，有大陆的居民，而且成立了居委会。那你想想，你这个地方有常住居民呢，那你对这个地方事实占领才会被人承认嘛。台湾给这个太平岛发的第一个居民证是2016年，太晚了。你想想，你1945年占的，你到2016年你才发第一个这个居民证，所以我觉得台湾这方面真的是不争气呀。我觉得这太平岛如果是大陆占的话，绝对搞一个欣欣向荣的小镇出来。那你想想，你没有人在那儿住嘛？他就说太平岛所有的人都来自于这个中华民国政府，都靠中华人民政府从台湾运来的补给船来维持，所以这个岛啊，它不能认为它是一个靠自然的环境能够维持人类生活存在的这么一个岛屿。然后呢，说这个岛上有4口井了，这4口井呢，说是2口井都是咸的，剩下1口井有点水，但是呢，土地非常贫瘠，没有农业活动，也没有渔业活动，真是哑巴吃黄连。最后啊，南海裁决案就裁定这个太平岛不是岛，是礁，岩礁，差别大了。一旦降为岩礁，也就没有200海里的专属经济区了。当时这个裁决出来之后，中华民国政府不承认，马英九还专门写了一篇文章。那写文章有什么用啊？那你为什么这几十年你不在这地方搞个居委会啊？你为什么这几十年不在这搞一些常住居民呢？我就觉得中华民国政府在维护国家主权这方面，确实是不行，确实是能力弱，确实是没有远见卓识，确实是没有胸襟，对吧？结果导致了太平岛被降了。这个我觉得是中国没有参加，就是这个南海仲裁案最大的损失，在法理上，应该说整个南海仲裁案对中国都不利，因为最后的结果宣布啊，中国所谓的历史性权利没有法律依据。中国那7个岛礁，什么美济礁、属地礁，是永暑礁，全都是低潮高地，连岩礁都不是。而且裁定中国政府在这个岩礁上搞的所有的活动啊，都是非法的，不能改变这个本身的这个现状。也裁定中国当时啊驱离菲律宾的这个渔民在这个附近海域啊，本身也违反了联合国的海洋公约。最重要的损失就我说的，太平岛被由岛降格为了岩礁。这是整个南海仲裁案最后的结果。但最后我再讲，其实这个南海仲裁案也没有些人想象的那么重要啊。为什么？因为你可以看一下联合国那几个大国啊，他们实际上都被这个国际仲裁法庭仲裁了，没有一个人执行。比如说那个俄罗斯，当时裁决他要把那个荷兰的渔民给放了，他也不放了。那英国当时国际仲裁法庭裁决他之后，他也不听啊，他专门在那个岛上建了一个保护区啊。那美国更是如此了，尼加拉瓜的这个仲裁案呢，仲裁完之后他执行吗？他也不执行。所以就是这个国际仲裁法庭，它实际上虽然可以仲裁，但是它由于是国际法，它没有一个强制执行力，没有强制执行力，充其量就是菲律宾你未来在中国进行双边谈判的时候啊，会增加一点你的法理方面的正义感，法理方面的依据，就是如此。当然，对于菲律宾来说，这个代价花的也不少，整个仲裁花了3000万美金。按道理来讲，这仲裁案过程中间，1500万美金是菲律宾花，另外1500万应该是中国政府出啊。但中国政府不参与了，结果菲律宾就得把中国政府这一份钱也给交上去，一共交了3000万美金。但是3000万美金买了这样的一个法律文件啊，但中国政府不承认，那你说菲律宾将来他能不能就靠这样的一个南海仲裁案来收回南海的权益？那我看不可能，因为中国政府的态度非常清晰，就是要在南海要构建一个事实上的存在，只要构建事实上的存在，将来才有谈判的基础。你不管你把这美济礁啊，什么储备礁啊，叫什么低潮高地，反正我已经建成岛了，我就在这存在了。就像你菲律宾，你把我的中业岛占了之后，你会退吗？你也不会退。那么将来就要靠谈判来解决。 靠谈判解决的时候，那就要靠实力。虽然说南海政坛案对中国政府会形成一点点舆论的影响，但是我个人认为对整个南海的未来的事态发展没有太大影响。我今天就到这里，谢谢大家。
しんどいね。
again. My boy Ben coming out with a great take. Take after take. He's got it all. Ben Shapiro on Medicare and Social Security. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. If that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. And Joe Biden is 81 years old.
Wait, what? Yes, Joe Biden shouldn't be running for president. And yes, the retirement age should be lowered, as a matter of fact, not made higher. What the...
Retirement age in the United States at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years.
What is he saying, bro? How do people look at this guy and think that he has any fact in any of his analysis? How do you look at the situation and go, first of all, everyone around me is dead. Everyone around me that retires dies immediately. In order to avoid death, you must work till you die. I also don't get it because, like, one, you're straight up alienating your audience of old people, and two, making an argument for why Biden should continue running for president at his age, which, by the way, that very same argument extends to Donald Trump as well. Both of those are retired. Hello? They're both old. This is like the maximalist position. That is the worst possible position that Ben could have arrived at.
And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job,
lose their purpose in life by losing their job is crazy, dude. When I think of the happiest elderly on the planet, I think of the Walmart greeters. I think of the old lady that's still working in the Amazon facility. She's so happy.
Just on a fiscal level and on a logical level. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt established 65 as the retirement age, the average life expectancy in the United States was 63 years old. Today, the average life expectancy in the United States is close to 80. It's totally insane that you believe that you should be able to work from the time that you are essentially 20 to the time that you are 65, which is a 45-year period, pay in, and then you will receive Social Security benefits sufficient to support you and your wife or whatever, for like another 20 years. That's crazy talk. That is not fiscally sustainable. If you have to raise the retirement age to 67 or 68, that everyone is going to fall apart. My parents are that age. My parents are not retired, and they shouldn't retire. It would be very bad for them to retire. By the way, it's disrespectful to people who are 67, 68, 69 years old to suggest that they are in the same shape as people who were 65 were in 1940. It's not true at all.
Dude, this is nuts. Bro really said Arbach macht frei, by the way. Like, he's saying work sets you free. Everybody knows this, okay? I don't know where I got this quote from. Everybody knows work sets you free. Work, 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 work. When you're a productive laborer, when you have productive output that is necessary for society to continue, you are happy. You are at your happiest. It's like, bro, retirement used to be presented in the past as a positive thing. It's like after you sucked the dick over and over and over again for 40 years, for 50 years, now you can finally not work and survive. But because of austerity and because of the way that American capitalism operates, we do not have that freedom for our elderly when they are no longer productive members of society, productive in the capitalist sense, I'm saying. Like, that used to be a thing that people look forward to, you know? You get your pension, you retire, you travel the world, you do the things that you wanted to do that you didn't have the freedom to do when you were working. We've completely moved past that point, and that is precisely the reason why Ben can even say such things without people immediately trying to put him under a goddamn guillotine like the French would. Holy moly. It's additionally funny for him to say this as someone who just sits behind a camera like me, okay, and chirps about the world for 2-hour increments at a time and makes tens of millions of dollars. We are very fortunate people, Ben and I, okay? Ben even more fortunate than someone like myself. Ridiculous for him to sit there and be like, you poors, you need to keep working longer. Far after you should be working in a normal situation. Blows my goddamn mind, dude. How the can someone listen to this and go, yeah, no, this is my guy, this is my woke guy?
Have you met a 65-year-old lately? 65-year-olds are not old in the United States. 68-year-olds are not old in the United States. And yet
he's trying to present it as a positive, which is crazy. Yes, bro, due to medical phenomena, due to modern medicine, 65-year-olds get 10 extra years of having fun. The notion that life expectancy was 63 at a time when laid it down for 65 as the retirement age wasn't so that people die, dog. Like, what do you mean? Also, the reason why life expectancy was 65 wasn't because people were dying at the age of 65. I don't think a lot of people understand how life expectancy works. It's infant mortality. That's what lowers life expectancy. I mean, Ben should know this. He's a political commentator. This is a common misconception about even like the dark ages or whatever, thinking that people just straight up die at the age of 30. Why the we have hundreds of talking heads like this saying retirement age is too low, but zero saying we should lower it? Retirement age should be 10 to 20 years earlier, and Social Security taxes should be lifted. I agree, but good luck.
Yeah, Joe Biden thinks he's not old, and that dude is running for president again, and that dude actually is old, and he's 81. I fail to see how a country in which our entire leadership class is 80 plus, that we should have a retirement age of 65. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and then he goes like, he talks about the underlying perceived hypocrisy. The point of retirement is supposed to be seen as like, you've done your work, you worked your whole life, and you no longer should have to. Now you can have fun, okay? Now you can have a sense of autonomy in your life. Now you can control your own destiny. That was supposed to be the retirement. Ben literally has completely cast aside that notion. Retirement is not even seen as a positive. Because you want to know why retirement is not seen as a positive nowadays? Because Social Security doesn't make up enough. Because there's no such thing as pensions. Now 401ks for the most part. Ben also makes an argument as to why Biden should retire. He's too old. Blows my goddamn mind, dude. Look at this. By the way, Jesus Christ.
This is why they're scared of China. Because maybe Americans might start questioning the way things are. Maybe we'd stop celebrating when an 82-year-old gets to retire only because of GoFundMe. All we see is propaganda like this, or this one, or this one, when in reality, it's because of this, and this, and this, or this. China isn't necessarily the model to look out for, but guess what? They're doing a lot of things well, and it presents an alternative to the way things are in the West, and that is scary for the ruling class.
I don't know what to say about this. Like, it's just so odd. We argue against a life of dignity at every step here in the United States of America, and it's like built into our core. A life of dignity is not one where you are lost in your work, where you have no control over your life because you're working. A life of dignity is the freedom to pursue things that are fulfilling, meaningful. That's how you have a life of dignity. Here's another anti-retirement.
I know politicians are telling you you can retire at 60, but let me tell you, the economics are clear. You need to be working into our 70s. The idea of retiring at 60 is fine if you're going to die at 70.
What the do you mean? No, it's not. How much money does this freak make? Hold on. Linda Grattan. Let's see what she does. A British organizational theorist, consultant, and professor of management practice at London Business School. Oh my God. Oh my God. She's a Scouser who betrayed her earlier ways. What is this? He's from Liverpool too. Neoliberalism robs you of your soul, I swear to God. This argument I don't think works in America because the American dream quite literally is retiring at the age of 30, retiring at the age of 40. That is literally what the American dream is all about. Being able to like off and make few money early on, get the bag. The entrepreneurial mindset is quite literally this. So that's precisely the reason why I don't think Americans look at this and go, no, actually I do want a life of endless work. Linda Grattan, redesigning work, how to transform your organization and make hybrid work for everyone. Future of work thought leader, writer, speaker, influencer. Hello, I'm Professor Linda Grattan, as well as an award-winning thought leader, writer and speaker. I'm the founder of the Global Research Advisory Practice, HSM Advisory. Very nice. I've been retired for 8 years, and here's the truth. Save your money, invest as much as possible, and retire as soon as you can. We were not made to work like mules until we die. There are so many things people can do besides work, just my 2 cents. Yes, my retirement account has gone down 13.7% the past year due to rebalancing. I did it out of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What are the best alternatives to take in order to secure financially free retirement? People just want freedom in their retirement. They want to be able to pursue dignified things. They want to be able to keep themselves busy. That's the whole point. The issues with retirement is not due to the retirement age being too early. It is that you don't have meaningful pursuits post-retirement because we've been wired into being serfs. That's the problem. We've been wired into thinking that we're peasants, okay? That we have to work for a life of dignity. There is so much more to be had, to be experienced in the world other than your output at the widget factory. Jesus Christ, dude. And it's always economists who chirp like this. It's like, yeah, obviously your job is a little bit more meaningful than most of the workforce. I hate this. This is why I hate the World Economic Forum, by the way, because this isn't socialism. This is the exact opposite. This is capitalism. This is neoliberal capitalism in display. They are desperately trying to squeeze what remains for the fractions that will give you additional profit margins. Technology improves as sectors streamline, as there is more efficiency. You need less workers for the same output. But that also creates a real tricky problem. The rate of profit tends to decline in that circumstance. And when the rate of profit declines, well, then you have to do imperialism to keep people servile and low so that you can continue exploiting them further. Progress is still inevitable on that front due to technological achievements, even if they arrive later. And those technological achievements can be your liberators, or they can further enslave you. Under capitalism, all matter of technological advancement is seen as a mechanism to enslave you further. It makes your life in other avenues a little bit easier. Yes, it can be your wings or your ball and chain. Now the problem is, we do not have any way of seeing it, and this is a genuine problem for the future, because as we develop further and further, as medicine improves, as people survive and live to the age of 100, as we survive and live to the age of 100, you now have a real problem with like people who are just not contributing to the output. People who are not simply working at the widget factory, okay? When you're 70, you can't work at the widget factory anymore. What are you supposed to do? Either we rewire the way that our economy is organized, which we won't do because too many people make money the way that the economy is organized currently, or we try to find different ways of continuing to put older people back into the workforce. And we'll sell you a lie while we advocate for such things like, oh, this is good for your brain. God forbid you look at the situation and go, we should find ways of improving retirement, that people can find dignity in pursuit of passion that they literally did not have time to pursue, that people can continue working their brains in meaningful ways in the way that they would when they were working. That would require profits to plummet. We can't do that. Get back to work, I say. It's great stuff.
Every single decade, we live longer. So the thought that you...
Isn't that crazy? Modern medicine has improved our lives dramatically, and we still find a way to f that up.
So the thought that you might live to 100 is a possibility. And so the idea of retiring in your 60s, I think, is entirely outmoded. We need to think about working right the way through our life. But of course, to do that, we have to change the way we think about our whole life.
This is the most nefarious type of propaganda, because like she's presenting working as a positive and saying like we should simply rewire the way we understand work. That's not going to happen 99% of the workforce.
Full-time education, full-time work, full-time retirement. You don't really have to have a great deal of self-insight. All you have to do is to look around left and right and ask yourself, what's everybody else doing at my age? Because age equals stage. But that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for you, and it's certainly not going to work for our children. Think about the way that the world is changing.
Dude, are you ready for the New World Order? I swear to God, you will own nothing and be happy. This is literally like, you will keep working because work sets you free. That's what this is.
Gonna start doing what I would call a multi-stage life. It's the idea that you can do all sorts of different things at all sorts of stages. So for example, education suddenly becomes something you do right the way through your life. It becomes a lifetime of learning. Work becomes something that you dip in and out of. Rather than starting in a company when you're 20 years old and just going straight through, you could work part-time, you could freelance, you could take time off. And retirement also moves back.
This is so funny. Consulting. I like the very necessary labor of consulting. It's like, come on, everyone will be a consultant at one stage of their lives. It's like, yo, are you dumb as hell? We need nurses. We need plumbers, lady. You're so stupid. Like, we're talking about the broadest sectors of the Western world. It's literally socially necessary labor, not socially unnecessary labor like consulting or Twitch streaming. It blows my mind how out of touch these people are, because like people that listen to this come in here and yell at me all the goddamn time, not realizing that, like, for example, I've never made an argument that, like, what I'm doing is, like, socially necessary labor. There's utility in it. You know what I mean? This is so stupid. She's basically doing the elevated version of like, start a drop shipping company. Once you have a drop shipping company, start consulting others to start drop shipping companies. Okay, what happens when everyone's doing that? Who's buying the drop shipping company? Marketing scheme